Yeah, okay. So like solipsism is kind of different from that. And it's the
Okay.
belief that only yourself exists. You know, like those people who like can't be convinced that anyone else is real. That would be
Oh.
literal like solipsism. People are like that convinced.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I know my girlfriend will sometimes, when if she goes through a state of depression, she'll sometimes bring up like, "How do I know you're real?" That question gets brought up a
Oh,
lot.
right. That's depersonalization almost or something, right?
I'm, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm learning as we go. It's funny.
I see.
I
'Cause that sounds like a kind of a psychosis of sorts. I had something like this when I took like a fistful of melatonin. I tried to sleep. And I woke up half asleep and I forgot where I was. And I was so agitated because like I was dreaming about being in my bedroom in Nova Scotia, but like here I was in this strange person's house full of these people I didn't recognize because I was new to this town, right? So yeah, I was like, oh man, what's going on? What this is a nightmare. And I didn't think things were real, but it was from being half asleep in that mental state. Yeah, so
no, I have a somewhat similar experience. I was out in Toronto a few years back. I was celebrating my birthday, and I was super fucked up. I had been drinking all day. I had been smoking a lot of dope, and I took way too many edibles. And
oh,
I was in an Uber heading home, and there was a part of me that I started dozing off. I was like, "Oh, we're around Argyle Street," and then I had that fucking trip moment where I realized, like, my eyes shot open, and I realized I'm not in Halifax. I'm in Toronto. I got to keep my wits about me.
exactly, yeah.
And I was in the when I was partying too. My friend brought me to this dive bar,
Oh,
and
gee.
it was a place where it's like I didn't trust not to get knifed in that
Attacked.
bar. It
Right,
was
if you're like physically
really.
unable to defend yourself because you're so high.
Oh, exactly. And I was half pissed because what he told me was he gave me a chocolate bar and he said, take one row of chocolates. He's like, that should get you high. He's like, because one little square isn't going to do anything. I
Jokes.
go, okay, I trust you. And then
But
he
they're
goes,
like 50 milligrams each or something retarded.
that's what he said. He's like, dude, I'm a fucking stoner. You don't smoke that much. And then it just fucking hits you. And it's like that point. It's almost felt like I compare it to like what a Grand Theft Auto mission feels like when you start getting that wheezy, wavy feel. I swear to God, I had to cross the street to get to my Uber. It was the longest 50 feet of my life. I don't know how I made it across the street.
That's pretty good. Yeah, when everything's like in slow-mo and you actually have to coordinate your decisions.
You
Oh,
do.
it's
Oh my God. And lights are just like throw you off. It's like transitioning into the afterlife or something.
overstimulating. Yeah.
Fuck. My friend has the nerve. He's like, "Hey man, we're gonna do a little coke in the bathroom. You want to join?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna die." It was a fun. It's not wasn't a fun experience, but it's a good memory. Sometimes bad experiences can lead to like good stories and good memories. That's why I always try to, it's
It's
like,
funny too
okay,
how you can't like sometimes you're too high to really be like straight up with people. So like this guy's trying to give you hope like coke, but you're too high. You can't
yeah,
just tell him like straight up like you're trying to give drugs to somebody who's too high. I don't want your cocaine, sir.
yeah. It's like I love you, buddy, but right now I got to think about me. I got a life to live.
Great, like a glass of water would be nice. Yeah,
Mm. So I have a question for you. You're out in Vancouver, right?
right.
I've never made it that far out west, but I've heard the drug problem out there is way heavier than in most cities in Canada. Is there any truth to that, or that you know of, or what?
Okay, so like at 420, I guess, because there's a 420 in every city.
Of
But
course.
like, okay, I'll compare to Montreal. In Montreal, there was a 420 on the mountain at Mount Royal. And
Okay.
yeah, 4:20 p.m. everyone would just light joints and then go home after. It was fine. Down here, people were selling unlicensed cannabis from just random stands, and I guess some teenagers smoked some fucking fentanyl. Somebody was like, "I'm gonna sell the best Kush." Duh.
I
And
shouldn't
so
laugh at that, but it's just so like,
it's fu-
oh, of
no, no, it's okay.
course.
It's okay. I get jaded because I've seen so much of it out here. But so fentanyl is like a down. It's like morphine if you times it by 60,
Oh,
and then
Jesus
carfentanil would be
Christ.
like morphine times 600. Which if you smoke a gram, like a pebble of this, like a little grain of it, that you need like 5 vials of stuff. Like they almost can't bring you back. They don't have enough reversal.
It's almost like pufferfish venom, where just a little bit will kill you.
It's basically people are basically smoking this. Yes.
Jesus Christ. See, I know I've got an addictive personality, so I don't go near anything hard drugs. Just I know what I'm like.
I I met someone he was actually a roommate of mine. He was pretty cool otherwise, but
Hmm.
he shot heroin, and we were like kind of like short on rent. But I was like, okay, like this guy's gonna pay the extra 200, and he was fine, except he kind of smelled like mushrooms some days. And did you know those little cooker cups people like cook their dope in?
Oh yeah.
There's there would be little fucking burn marks all over the windowsill, and I'd be like, Thomas, can you can you do this on the tile, or can you stop burning up the
Yeah, we're gonna lose our damage deposit, man.
right? And so yeah, he told me he was like, Calvin, I know you. I see you smoke uh weed and hit the bong all day and drink alcohol. If you tried heroin, it would be the greatest thing ever. You shouldn't. And I'm like, yeah, I know myself. I'm like I enjoy being relaxed, and that would be the most probably relaxing thing. This is why I wouldn't fuck with it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You
And
know
then
you chase it.
right, and when I would watch him do it, it was so funny. His eyes would flicker and stuff, and then he would like I would joke. I'd be like, "Oh, Thomas, the heroin ghost is here." Like, because it would look like he would be getting blown by a phantom. And so I was
Just that
like,
bliss.
right, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like he was getting sucked off, and I was like, okay, like if that happens every time you like smoke or shoot pills, I'm not going to fuck with that. I would rather actually get sucked off
Oh
and
yeah,
keep my life
definitely.
clear. Yeah.
One of my first jobs when I was working up here, I worked at a gas station, and one day I walked into the
I've
back room.
always wanted a gas station job because I know you have the best stories of people.
Oh fuck. You run in like that was my first job moving up to the city. It's like within the first like 6 weeks I saw every fucking thing that this city had to offer. Like just everybody comes to gas stations, from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs.
I think that's what's cool though, is you get an entire scope of because
Oh
and
my
from
God, yeah.
experience, from the couple of times hanging out in the park here is weird, and with the homeless crowd is like so you sit on a bench and you post up with some munchies and your bong and
Yeah.
some shit, right? And you're like, okay, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna get high, we're gonna watch the whole 24 hours
Yeah.
of people partying, crackheads coming out, businessmen coming out, drunks laying in the gutter. They wake up, they sober up, and it's like, whoa, here was the entire crowd that just flashed in front of you. But at the
Oh
gas
yeah.
station, dude, you just automatically do that. Is you get an immediate scope of people.
Oh
It's
totally.
really cool, yeah.
Well, my coworker, when I walked in on him, like I just walked into the back room and he had a needle sticking into his arm, and it was the beginning of his shift. I was like, oh fuck.
Your
And he was the
coworker.
dude in charge that night. I was like, oh my God, we're gonna die here.
So I did this youth job, and I don't know, I don't really talk so much of it because it was pretty hard up, but it was $40 cash and 3 hours work and a lunch break and a lunch. So you're like, okay, like what is it?
Why
So you
not?
pick up fucking dirty needles, but you're right, you start off as a list worker, so you can be the person who's tallying up the stuff you find, or you
Hmm.
can be the person who's picking it up. The person who picks it up gets to work every day. So like, but you have to lead around your list bitch who can like some days like the people I would get couldn't even fucking draw tallies, dude.
Oh
They were like
Jesus.
into this job, they couldn't like this guy, he just put lines across the paper and didn't even do the like the five
The
across.
tick.
Right, yeah, and I had to count them out. I'm like, dude, like what the fuck? And
Oh my
so
God. How do you not
yeah,
know how to do that?
right. So yeah, I was doing that job, and so like you were saying, oh, I was led around by somebody who had a needle in their arm. I had to lead around people who use drugs, and so it'd be like, okay, 15-minute bathroom break at Starbucks. I'm gonna grab a coffee and a smoke outside. And I'd be like, why has my list worker been in the bathroom for fucking 30
Oh
minutes?
yeah,
And they
fuck.
come out all zombie like, I'm ready to work, man.
Oh my.
Like, no, you fucking not. And it would just like it would take my day up. Like I would take like twice as long to complete that route because I'd have to like slow down for my dope head list worker
Yep.
stuff. See, that's my experience with that.
Well, when I work at work now, I work selling liquor, and
Oh,
it's a sad experience when you start to see people who come in, they start coming in more, and you
recurring.
start, yeah, and then you start
Yeah.
seeing the symptoms, and you see it first. I always see it with the
The
hands.
social problem. Oh my God.
Holy shit.
I couldn't, because I always wonder how, okay, on the customer side, I'm like, okay, this is day three. I'm walking in. I'm going to go to the other liquor store because I know that's going to look bad.
It's funny because I've had to work at a few different liquor stores when they need me, and I see people coming into different
Trying to
stores, and when
dodge.
they
Right.
see me, it's like a deer in headlights. They're like, "Oh shit, I've been caught."
That's so funny because I know like people make these observations. I think if you're smart, you're bored at work, right? So you're just gonna
Oh
be
yeah.
like, hey, look, it's that guy.
Oh yeah. We have an order that, at least not we, I shouldn't say we. I know when someone has officially given up on themselves and they hate their life. They get they get usually between 2 or 4 facts a day
Case of
and a
wine.
pint of Smirnoff. That's the
Oh,
combo when I know the
facts.
person
Yeah.
hates their life.
Gosh, that's
That beer
dirty.
tastes like dirt,
Yup.
but it gets you some fucked. And
What
the
do they
amount
drink out
of
here?
contract workers that come in on their lunch and buy facts and like a spark plug of Smirnoff, it's just like I don't know how any house
A
in this fucking
spark. I
city gets
like
built.
that. What's what we just call them like I think it's a mini here,
Yeah, that's what we call
right?
them too. Spark
A
plug just seems to be
spark
an
plug.
older
I
term.
really like that. Yeah. I've not heard that before.
It's an older guy that got me talking like that. It's like, okay, that makes
Dude,
sense.
okay, up here I asked for like a fucking pint and I had to say Mickey after fucking repeating the word pint like 3 times. And they're
Yeah.
like, "What are you did I fuck that up as what
No, well, here's the thing. I think Mickey is one of those things that is it varies. So a pint and a Mickey I've heard is interchangeable, but also a half pint gets called a Mickey too. So it's one of those things that's like there's no set actual rule for it. It's almost like everybody's got their own thing.
huh. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, because this guy
But
was like legit busting my balls. He would not give me my fucking I'm like pointing at the thing. I'm like, the pint, the half of a quart. And at that
yeah.
point, when I designated, he's like, "You have to call it a Mickey." I'm like, "You're really gonna be an asshole about
Oh,
this?"
what a dick.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
And
dude,
then
shut the
and then
fuck
the
up.
older cashier was just like nodding her head, like, "Yeah, he's doing it." And it's like, "Why do you have to do this to me?"
I would have just been like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going across the street.
Right. Well, this is the Wall Street. What's funny? I live a block away from the Wall Hotel, where
Okay.
fucking Trudeau stays. So sometimes when the other liquor stores close, these guys are open late. So I go and I go buy weed at the Yuppie PM liquor store, and it's these
Okay.
guys that bust my balls. Of
They've
course,
served our prime minister a few times. Now they
the
think they're big shots.
the bureaucrat alcoholics, they get to fucking yeah.
Fuck.
Pardon.
One thing I've noticed though is, rich, poor, alcoholism. It knows no boundaries. You could be the richest guy in town, drive a Range Rover, and it's like I'm looking at what you're buying. It's like, yep, you don't care about yourself.
Everyone just pretends they're not alcoholics.
Oh my
They
God,
can't.
yeah.
I bet in 2020, if you polled people, it would be pretty interesting. Like during Corona, especially, who hasn't locked inside, and if you're not a pot user,
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
just succumbed to the elusive, you know what I mean? The
Well,
allure of alcohol and just
oh
exactly
yeah.
what you're doing here is just socializing
Well,
inside
you're bored all day, or worse, you're stuck with kids, or you know,
or at work, and you're like,
or
oh, fuck this.
oh my God, yeah.
Like I'm
Oh my
sure
God.
if you have nothing but negative social interactions at work, and then Corona is dictating you can't hang out with your friends, haha, of course you're gonna get drunk and go home and talk
Oh my
online.
God. Oh
Like
my
hell
God,
yeah.
yeah. Why
Yeah.
not? It's funny that you bring that up because right now is I'm doing a month that like I call it sober September where I don't smoke any dope or drink any booze. And I thought it was gonna be harder than what it was, but it's not. But I'm just sitting there. I'm like, my God, I gotta find something to do. That's what it is,
I
more than
might join you
anything.
on that soon because so I had this THC vape I gave to a friend who, well, say a friend. He's this guy I
Okay.
ran into. He's an entity. His name is Mrs. Doubtfire, and he reminds me of Vermin Supreme in the States with the boot, like the boot hat. He ran
No,
for.
I
He
can't
was
say
gonna.
I'm familiar with
Okay.
this.
So, anyways, yeah, where did this guy? No, he ran for senator of Vermont, but he has a boot hat and he dresses up like a wizard.
Oh, okay.
This other guy, but the guy I'm talking about, Mrs. Doubtfire, calls himself Mrs. Doubtfire,
Okay, so he goes by that too.
goes by that. Ran for mayor of Vancouver despite he's like homeless, but he's really eccentric and wise. He's not
Okay.
like threatening. This is what I mean. It's like when you rough and tumble a little bit, you feel like you can approach these types a little. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this guy looks interesting. He has a cool mustache. He looks like Ginger Guy Fawkes almost, and he calls himself Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's always I forget what he was doing when I met him, but he told me as I was looking for like to make a smudge stick, like so like I was looking for sage. He was like,
Okay.
"Yo, man, sage doesn't grow in the city." And at that time, I was like looking to become more wise also, so I took that literally. I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, this guy's telling me like the city is polluting my mind and sage doesn't grow here." and you can't become wise here. So I ran into this guy and I gave him my THC vape. So I'm looking to ditch my bong at some point. I would join you for Sober September at some point when I clear my stash. That'd be cool.
Hmm. Well, yeah, what I've had to do is I just keep it out of sight, out of mind, because um, that's just how I do it. It's like if I don't see it, then I'm not tempted. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll have to say I'm way more tempted by dope than I am booze,
You,
because
yeah,
dope
you've
is just
done.
more enjoyable in my opinion.
Yeah, trust, and it's because of dopamine, and it's like, I mean,
Oh yeah.
have you learned about how that works and stuff? It's
Oh,
pretty
well, I've only heard,
spooky.
like, usually when I hear about dopamine, I usually hear it in the context of how someone becomes addicted.
Okay, so it's the reward chemical in your brain also,
Yeah,
though. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like when you
Okay.
get like a text message, your brain shoots off a little bit of dopamine.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what Facebook is trying to like manipulate, and ads and
Mm.
porno and
Oh my God.
movies. Right. So it's funny. So there's this guy who goes on about dopamine detox, and he's like, to do that though, you have to sit in a room bored. And it's if
Okay.
that you, if you like, if you're eating like gourmet every day, it would taste like nothing.
Yeah,
But
you
if you
get used to
ate a
it. Yeah.
bowl of rice for a
Yeah.
couple days and you go back and all of a sudden it's great. That's
Yeah.
like dopamine detox. So like you sit in a room and you do not watch any movies, you do not smoke pot, you don't watch any porn, you completely deprave yourself. And when you go back, holy crap, washing dishes is great.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. That's what he gets at though, I guess. So it sounds like something that you're doing with Sober September.
Well, yeah, I'm doing it to challenge myself, but also it's like, yeah, it's like to, take out my tolerance a bit and just to, I think it's more of like just to prove that it's like, okay, when I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
self-control. That's what it is too.
That's what
It's
it
not even
is, yeah.
right. It's not even about the weed. It's about you have
No,
control for yourself still. You got to check that out every now and
e-
then.
exactly, exactly. Because it can, there was a point where it was just like every night I was smoking a half joint or a joint, which isn't very much at all. But for me, it was just becoming like, okay, this is becoming a habit that I want to just kick for a bit, and then bring it back slowly, just to make sure that I get other things done because weed is like when I smoke because I like indica the best where just like
Yeah,
I don't
trust.
get up anything.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm a fat ass, so it's like anytime I get high, it's like, oh man, here comes a bowl of sweet chili heat Doritos. It's like, goddamn, 208 pounds later. It's like, for fuck's sakes.
So what I find works with that too is just like how like your parents would maybe reward you for doing your homework with some
Yeah,
candy or something is so you're like, okay, if I'm gonna smoke today, I'm gonna get these two things that I wanted done, and then I'm gonna get
absolutely.
high. Right. And
That's
then
what
you
I
motivate
I have I
yourself.
start every day with a list of I
Yeah.
want to complete this, and if I don't start the day with a list, I'm fucked from the start. I need
Yeah,
a
or
to-do list.
if you smoke first, then you're like, okay, well, shit, now I have to do it though.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you have to commit either way. Yeah,
yeah.
that's yeah,
Very rarely do I do a wake and bake, but when I do, it's like I usually feel like crap by the end of the day. But sometimes it's just like, I got nowhere to go today. It's really nice. But now since I've got my own like side business on the go that I need to be able to be sober for to make deliveries, and it's just like, you know, I usually save the dope for like after 8:30, 9 o'clock, because it's like I'm not going out after that. They can get it tomorrow.
there's that too. Is like, yeah, when you work, I mean, obviously you smoke a lot less.
Mm.
So like, if you can train your brain into being like, okay, time to make some deliveries for like a solid, 8 hours or something like ridiculous breaks,
Oh
then
yeah.
yeah, hell yeah. And then, it's more fun doing that. And then you just come back and then weed is a side thing kind of deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think weed is to me. I love it because it helps me sleep so well too. I think it's just got to be that thing at the end of the night. I've got nothing else to do. Well, okay, let's spark up. Nothing.
Right. I have that weird philosophy lately, and it kind of goes with caffeine that I'm taking also.
Okay.
That's so, oh, and drinking. Okay, so check this. It's actually kind of opposite of what you're doing. If you've ever played Mario Party, how there's an option to set yourself on a handicap.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's just very much like the wrist or vest weights I'm talking about, but for your brain. Okay, so should you choose to try and function like this for a long enough period of time,
Hmm.
that when the weights come off of your brain, you should have absolute lucidity. If you can quick think under the circumstance, it's kind of weird, but don't
It's
turn your
like
brain into rice pudding.
Yeah, no, no. It's almost like the whole diamonds under pressure thing. If you
Right,
can do
exactly.
good while under that pressure, then without it, you should be doing even better.
So what you're doing when you're drinking and you're smoking is you're making yourself temporarily retarded and unmotivated. So if you can accomplish things and still do that and be functionally intelligent, that
You'll be all
basically,
right.
right?
As long
Some
as you don't
people,
overindulge it, right? That's the
and what I
thing.
say also is that is if you have spare mental processing power like you.
It's funny with this whole pandemic that's been going on. I've never really come to understand with as I get older, because I consider myself a pretty optimistic person, but how just flat out stupid some people can be. And I think the pandemic is bringing it out because I think everybody's taking a stance on everything now. It's just like, whoa, what the
Yep.
fuck?
For me, it was rules. Because, for instance, the building I lived in is full of undesirables, we'll call them.
Okay.
The vagrants of society. Anyways,
Yep, no,
so
we've
these
got a few of
types,
them
I
in our
don't mind.
building.
Like, people can use drugs, people can die in the hallway, people can play music. I don't care. I put up with it. I have my own chill bubble here, so I mostly drown it out. But
Yep.
what I cannot tolerate is when there's a sign that goes up clearly that says 2 people maximum, and it's on every floor, and it's in the elevator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll point to it clearly, and you'll tell people, hey, there's 2 people, or like at the time, my pregnant girlfriend is in the elevator. Could you not like crowd in? And there
Yeah.
was this lady once. I had to like again. The signs are everywhere. She has a tracheotomy hole that she's coughing into, and then going
Ugh.
to touch the buttons and come in here with us. And I'm like, actually, you could take the next one because there's 2 elevators.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but it's on my responsibility now. But I didn't notice these people were so stupid. Like, not only are they stupid, they're really willing to risk your life to go get high.
Well, that's what it is. It's putting your safety at risk because when I was at work and there were so many people who were just like, when you tell them, "Oh, it's just 6 feet, man, just stay back 6 feet," they'd be like, "What are you scared?" It's like, I don't want to
Kind of.
die. I don't
Like,
want to risk it for you.
really, for this transaction or something? Like, could you fucking not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so I didn't realize people were that gone until this pandemic laid out. And then I was like, you people can't follow simple instructions. That's
Hmm.
dangerous
Oh
kind of
man.
stupidity.
Oh, you know it. Well, it kind of shows me too with just how selfish a lot of people truly are. Like, when the chips are down, people show you their true colors. You know what I mean? And a lot of people boast about, caring about people and this is on every side of the spectrum, but when shit hits the fan, a lot of people are
What's
only out for
funny
number
too
one.
is I didn't have beef with any of these people, and I wouldn't, but it was my woman that would get in their faces and be like, "Yo, man, are you retarded?" And I would be like, "Okay, here we go." Now
Yeah.
he's calling her retarded. Oh, actually, could you leave the elevator because it is retarded?
Yeah.
Kind of
Now it's like, okay, now she's involved in this, so I am by association I'm involved.
automatically.
Yep.
Yeah. So all these people who again like wouldn't normally be a problem are now obstacles,
Oh yeah.
dangerous obstacles.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Now you got to start just keeping your eye on people.
Oh, what I was gonna say is, and most of them are haters, but they wouldn't put on like haters. But instantly, when rules are involved, that they're haters.
Oh
So
yeah.
this, like you're saying, true colors is like really when people are asked to be polite and follow rules, and then they fall apart under that pressure. Like, come on, be civil, and
Oh
that's it.
yeah.
That's
Especially
what
when it's
made you
such a
retarded.
minimal request. It's not like I'm asking you to go up and kill your
Yeah.
dog.
But can you mind each other's safety? Like, even by minding my safety, you're minding your own safety because you don't know if do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you don't know who we don't
The whole
know
thing
who's
is
sick or
retarded.
who's not,
Right, yeah.
It's
The
like
fucking
everybody's actually
ventilator.
like I had a woman come into work here a couple weeks back and she goes, "Is COVID still a thing?" I was like, "It's not like a fucking fashion statement."
Yeah, it's like there's no cure yet.
There was another person that came in and one of my coworkers, it was a guy and a girl. They were both like my age and the guy was wearing a mask and the girl wasn't. So my coworker just politely reminded her. He's like, "Hey, just for next time, our company does ask you to wear a mask when you come in." And she just looked him dead in the eye and went, "Oh, I don't do masks."
Like, are you shitting in my mouth right now? It's like, no, actually, I'm asking you to just like do everything everyone else is doing.
Exactly. I'm not asking you to do anything different. Just put on a fucking mask while you're in here in your own home, whatever the fuck. I don't care. Uh, but I live by the saying, "There's no cure for being a cunt." So, and I think that's
That's when you cover these people's faces, Dylan, with a chloroform rag and throw them in a re-education camp.
Jesus.
Gnarly. Yeah.
So how has it been out in Vancouver in terms of like just being aware of people being sick or anything? Because I know in Halifax we've got our cases pretty much under wraps for the most part. You know, we've only had so many cases, but a lot of them
It,
were in our nursing homes, and a lot of older people died. Like
I see.
there was one nursing home, it was Northwood, and it was like 96% of deaths were in Nova Scotia were in that home.
Yeah, well, I would imagine there's probably a lot more elderly out that way. Here, it's mostly students and stuff, and so like we're seeing this weird thing with like, okay, some people's pockets of like parents and stuff might be dying, right? But
Mm.
then the party scene out here is people just keep bouncing it back and forth and may have caught it, transmitted it 6 times, but it's not keeping people from going to the clubs or the beaches
I
or
I don't understand that personally.
and
I mean,
we're at
I'm not the biggest club guy. Like I like to go every so often, but it's like, man, it's not worth me getting sick and losing, 2 weeks of work or whatever the fuck, you know?
right. And then there's house parties, and then there's this weird after hours parties. They're rented an office space out here.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so there's these things, and we're at 768 cases, which is breaching 600 in March. March was when it was like that bad. So,
That okay, so you guys are
climbing
on
up
your
to
second
800
wave.
again. Yeah, exactly. Well, of course.
Yeah.
And it's
Uh,
only because they loosened restrictions on the. I mean, they have patios, and then
yeah.
they'll have these like. It's funny. They'll have this like little fucking like sheet of plastic hanging there,
Oh my
but there's like
God.
fucking like wind and stuff, and it's like you think that's gonna do anything.
When they started bringing in like COVID measures into work, now we've got plexiglass. But before they just had like a clear tarp, and I felt like I was about to be murdered. You know what I mean? Like shot in the back of the
Right.
head and then just wrapped up.
Gross.
But
That's
now it feels
pretty
like I'm in the penalty box.
good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, these COVID measures was kind of funky.
oh yeah, and
Because there's that WHO conspiracy. I don't know if you're in agreement with
I'm
that.
not familiar
Weird.
with it. Give me a quick rundown.
So it's like there was something where, the first guy supposedly picked this up from an animal in a seafood market or something, right?
I heard it
And
was
then
a bat.
right, well that's yeah, well this is what the story came out as. And then they were like,
Okay.
okay, he got it from an animal, so he's not a thing. He's not a human to human thing yet, is
Yeah.
what China was concluding in WHO. And then it blew up. And then WHO was like, oops, yeah, well, I guess if a person has it, they can give it to another person, duh. And then
Mm.
they're like saying all this, revising statements like wear a mask, what kind of mask to wear. So it was almost like they were colluding with China a little bit. And they did get burned. And I think it's because like it was the US administration that penalize them first. And then there's Australia too. Australia is really vigilant about what was going on with China buying up the masks, WHO giving out some funky guidelines, and then it's like, oh yeah, did it really just escape from a lab and oops, it wasn't human to human? Like, so
Yeah.
I'm on board the fact that it was a biological attack and it's covered up by the news and all this other recent hype. And
Interesting.
WTO
Interesting.
definitely colluded with China, and they were penalized something like I forget they got some of their funding cut.
I
Remember
remember
that?
that. Yes, I do remember
And
that a
then
few months
Taiwan,
back.
it's weird, and WHO wasn't helping Taiwan because they're linked up with China. So they wouldn't be telling them, oh, you need an N95, you need 2 meters distance. They just wouldn't help out Taiwan because China hates Taiwan. So that was like the link up was, yeah,
You know,
WHO's
the
cool.
part about this whole thing I think that disappoints me the most in society is that this whole pandemic and this virus has been politicized. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like
Yeah,
instead of everybody in agreement, like this is something we need to take
dude,
seriously. There's
Just like Epstein, right? It's
oh
like
my
the
God.
investigation just gets swept up, whatever. Let's move on to the next thing. Like
The
China didn't
funny
get attacked,
the
or
funny thing about Epstein is I think that was the one thing that almost everybody agrees on. It's like, yeah, that guy did not kill himself. That's way too convenient in my opinion for like the footage to go missing and this
dude,
high powered
The
guy.
Steve Jail guy,
Yeah.
Steve Jail. I was telling somebody that story. I was like trying to wrap that up. I'm like, okay, so the temp guard's name, the temp guard who was assigned to watch Epstein on Suicide Watch, like not a veteran, not the temp guard's name was Steve Jail. And I was trying to explain that to someone, and they almost thought I was like bullshitting them. And I'm like, that's why this is so fishy.
Steve Jail. See, now, with that last name, there's only so many professions you can really go in. Corrections is up there, you know. If he
It's like
becomes
clearly a
warden
fake name
jail,
though. This guy just like pulled off his fake mustache and disappeared in the night after. Like,
he pulled off his mustache off of his real mustache.
yeah, like it's the Groucho glasses, the psychi. You know what
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like picturing like Steve Jail. Like really, guys?
Just call him Mr. Jail, Officer Jail.
Right.
It'd be perfect. You know, that sounds like a
Sean
skit right
Crow.
there. Like it's like the most blatant, cover up ever. And it's like, well, they're not gonna care. Just call
Just
him Steve
brutal.
Jail.
Yeah, and then like Epstein's found with like hand marks around his fucking neck, but like, oh, it's deemed a suicide.
Yeah.
He jumped from his into his toilet and choked himself midair.
That David Carradine style death. He was just in the middle of jacking it.
Dude, I like that new term that was like coined, like where oh the Clintons suicided him. Like how Clintons suicide people.
Well, when a lot of people were coming out on that flight list, a lot of celebrities. It was funny when we were reading through. We're like, okay, that makes sense. Woody Allen, that makes sense. There's just a bunch of people on the
Bill
Kevin
Clinton
Spacey makes
24
sense.
fucking times.
Yeah, Bill Clinton lived on that plane.
Yeah. The Lolita Express, that doesn't sound suspicious at all.
No, Prince
Boarding this plane
Andrew,
doesn't make me
Jesus
sound like a
Christ.
sex predator.
Oh fuck. You know, I have to wonder what it's like to be so removed from the basic reality of like how a normal person lives their life, like what a Clinton must like, what their life must be like, and when they see a normal person, like what they live like, what the fuck is going through their mind.
My favorite sport I've heard recently is ragging on Chelsea Clinton for how maladjusted and weird she is for like, she had all that money, but she also had that like both her parents were in the White House and they had a divorce situation, she had money, and so like all this weird kind of uh development going on her side.
Oh
Now she's
yeah.
try to now she'll try to hold like a political bias, but it's just so like whack because it's like she's been raised by Bill Clinton and fucking Hillary Clinton,
Oh yeah, she's not had a normal
but
life.
young and like yeah, maybe a little maladjusted. I don't know.
Well, that's like when you hear people like these like almost like the celebrities where they're trying to do that. Did you see that Imagine video
Jaden
that they
Smith.
fucking did? Oh
Wait,
yeah,
what?
them trying to relate. It's like you can never relate to me. Like example, like Jaden Smith, just like you said,
Right.
they can never understand. Your
Oh.
first concert was Madison Square Garden. Sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
That
So one
fucking
thing I was
shit.
gonna bring up was and I heard this on another podcast, but like, so like Bill Clinton's bodyguard, who must have been fucking standing through all of this.
Just outside the door.
Yeah. Like, oh, just wait outside the lavatory while I take this young lady in here. Her tiny hands can only get into my old man joints so good. I need this back up.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck.
That
It's like the
that would be
shittiest
an
assignment
interesting
ever.
job. You're just sitting there like Jesus Christ. You want to strangle the guy yourself?
Dude, like I wanted to protect the president, not a fucking pedophile.
And then in the contract, your boss just comes up to you and is like, "It's one and the same, sir." It's
You're
like,
like
oh,
protective custody of a suit at that point.
Imagine the shit that like the Secret Service, like the dirt that they must know, just from just being there, and just overhearing, because it's like, the president is still a person where it's like, they probably communicate with people they see the most every day, like their
Right.
bodyguard exam. You know what I mean?
But you're confidential like a doctor. And what's funny is like these guys must be actually like the Freemasons or the KGB, where it's like, okay, well, if you go home and you say this to anyone, we'll know it only came from a certain point, and we'll shoot you in the head.
Oh yeah, it's like you cannot escape. You saying anything is a death sentence to
So,
you, the people close to you.
right, for reference, my dad was like, oh, on a submarine, whatever, and for so long he couldn't really disclose any specifications about like the depth he was at, what
Yeah.
the submarine, like when they released him from, he's retired, he's like, okay, well, if you say any of this, we'll throw you in prison.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's
Definitely.
confidential, yeah. So I'd imagine that, yeah, all that presidential stuff is kind of the same way, but like, then it's almost like not purgatory, perjury. No, you know what I'm
Perjury.
saying?
I know what you're
Not
saying.
lying,
It
but
would be.
a disclosure of it's kind of like what WikiLeaks got under fire for.
Yeah, I think it would be it would be the equivalent of not necessarily treachery, but treason. Maybe
Yeah, yeah,
treason would
yeah,
be a
that's
word.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're revealing national, security
Right.
secrets.
Yeah. So like even if it's fucked up, like this is what I'm talking about. It's
Oh
like
yes,
okay,
it's like in
so
any business, like they make you sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then it's like they have some fucked up shit that you have to be like, what? I
hey,
can't fucking say
yeah,
this.
it's confidential and then like asterisk.
Mm.
Huge asterisk. So it's like, okay, well if you tell on President Bill Clinton for diddling little kids, you're gonna be thrown in jail for treason and we might shoot you in the head also.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton will still walk.
Yeah, like dude, fuck that.
Fucking hell.
Like presidential bodyguard goes from being like the coolest job ever to like, oh fuck, please no, not Clinton. Like,
You're just sitting there like, please somebody shoot him. If I see someone trying to shoot him, I'm gonna turn away.
like, do we have the Men in Black thing? I just want to forget everything, please.
They
I
do
don't want
that
to be an
every
asset.
day.
Yeah. I don't want to be an accomplice. Oh yeah, and dude, and then he goes down, and then everyone who was standing beside him and didn't say anything because they were gonna get shot in the head or whatever, goes down with him.
Oh, you know it, yeah. Why didn't you
Weird.
stop him? That type of thing. It's like, God damn, I'm between a rock and a hard place. If I stop him, I'm a fucking traitor, and my family's fucked. If I don't
Just
stop
want to
him,
do my
I'm
job.
protecting this guy.
I just want to work for the White House. Fuck.
Should have been a secretary.
Yeah, really.
The one thing though about that whole Epstein trial or that whole Epstein thing that's going on with his I don't remember her name, but I call her the procurer, the woman who
Oh,
his partner basically, his
uh,
partner in crime.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes, yes, Maxwell. See, I'm kind of afraid because it's like I keep hearing it's like she's got dirt on these people. I'm thinking she still better not get off on, give up a big name and get to walk. It's like she's just as guilty in my fucking opinion on that.
I heard being his woman that she's gonna was his woman since he died,
Yeah.
but she's gonna inherit his charges, and yeah, they might interrogate and then prosecute her. But as you're
Oh,
saying, I don't know if she could give up enough to do that.
oh
But
yeah, it would have to be someone so big, but somebody that big would probably be able to just be like walk off from those
just
charges.
pay
You
it
know what I
off.
mean?
Yeah, it's weird. Hey, what
It's
do you
like
think the what do
no,
you
no,
think
no,
the
go.
Wayfair and Comet Pizza uh
The Wayfair thing, I forgot about that. Me and my
were like, oh,
girlfriend
it's
were
a
talking about
conspiracy.
that. I was like, I was
Far
looking when that
conspiracy.
that happened. I was like, this is fucking weird. Like that was a fishy situation, especially with the kids with a very specific name. Those dressers, I guess. Were
Yeah,
they
but like they're not
dressers
even
or
that nice. It's not like they're like gold inlay and shit. I was like
no?
looking at these. I'm like, why would this
It's
cost
no, and they
$16,000?
weren't industrial size or anything to my knowledge. They were just a fucking white dresser.
I was looking at real estate. Actually, this is a funny story. I was looking at real estate the other day, and I saw a Wayfair doghouse that was like 20 or $35,000. And like,
Jesus.
okay, yeah, and it looked like Victorian, but like a $35,000 doghouse, a Victorian doghouse, right, for dogs. Yeah,
I mean, there's
it's
probably
weird.
rich people that have that, but not too many of them. See,
It's
that
like,
to me, that's someone who's like, okay, they didn't start out poor. That was someone born rich. Because I feel like someone who started out poor would never waste their money on that.
yeah, it could just be I think maybe it could just be a niche item,
Oh
but
yeah.
what's also creepy is it could be like that niche item could be the perfect cover up too. I think this is what people are actually getting at.
Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's like everybody would just dismiss it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, who's gonna spend money on that? It's like, well, someone who's interested or who knows, this is code for something else.
Dude, there's those like Twitter pedo celebrities who get caught with like, the pizza emojis in their name and stuff like that. And then there's like Comet Pizza's mystery like basement that doesn't exist on the blueprints, but supposedly like they say is for cold storage, etc. Like that's how that conspiracy all goes, anyways. Oh, and that happens to be in Washington, where if you look, it's like the most missing kids per state. In the United States, and we're not talking like 50, 60. We're talking like 200, 300
Jesus.
years or something like crazy. And then it's like, okay, and then you have this mystery Comet pizza that celebrities endorse, and they all have pizzas in their names, and they all like pedophilia in this place has like a basement off blueprint. Like, what's going on here?
It definitely leads itself to like some creative like thought process or thinking, you know what I mean? Because it's like right now
Right.
it's like I want to write a story about this shit, you know what I mean? Where it's like the pizza delivery boy doesn't realize, he's working for like this, and it's this big cover
It's
up. And he's
right.
got
It's
he's
like an Uber
walk
bag, but it's like twice as tall. And he takes out like his mega pizza. He's like, "Here's your $20,000 pizza," and he's like actually retarded. Like he's slow, but that's why they hired him.
Jesus.
Like, there's just
Sling
pizza
Blade
and
2.
sticks here. The new
Man,
screaming cheesy breadsticks. Yeah.
the new commercial right there. Come
Jeez.
down to the basement. Fuck.
Dude,
I
it's
do have
funny. I guess Chuck E. Cheese. I learned about this the other day. Chuck E. Cheese, you actually need to like uh
have a
a com
kid to go in.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up because people would just prey on people there. I used to love Chuck E. Cheese. Like, dude, if I was still a kid and I just had like I didn't even have parental supervision, I would totally just get lost in there. So to
Oh
think for
yeah.
the fact that there's like not a law like that for a while, that there's just people just going in like, hey, you want some quarters? Like, fuck
Yeah.
that. That's
Well,
creepy.
I never got to go to Chuck E. Cheese, but it always looks so fucking fun. You know what I mean? On the commercials and everything, it's like, yeah, that should have been a thing to begin with. It's like, yeah, if you ain't got a kid, you ain't coming in here.
It's just an arcade with pizza and a enterprise counter, honestly. Like being,
Yeah,
yeah.
but as a kid, it's the coolest thing ever.
Like
You
there's
know
a
what I mean?
couple arcades down here. That's actually one of my favorite things to do here is there's like those $10 2 liters of cider, white
Oh yeah.
cider, Okanagan. Yeah, and
Oh
so like
fuck yeah.
and then
Okanagan's
there's
great.
there's right Chinese arcade with the Chinese arcade guy who's totally cool with that. Totally cool if you're drinking there. So you just get $10 for the quarters, you get your 2 liter cider, and you go jam like some racing games or some like Time Crisis
Oh yeah,
kind of
he's probably just thinking, fuck yeah, give me the money. I don't care if you get
right. Yeah,
sloshed. Just don't break
right.
anything.
Yeah, dude, people just show up and fucking. It's actually kind of gross, and I stopped going to the arcade for this reason. It's just like all the dope heads just sit there and hog the fucking machines all day, and it's like, but I want to play Space Invaders too. Yes, sir.
You
And
challenge them for it, you win, they don't
this
come back.
this used to be an old porno theater. Like there's an 18 plus admission sign on
Okay.
the old. Is it called a veneer? I think with the theater display.
I'm
You
not
know,
sure to be honest with you, but I've heard that term
nice.
before.
Right. So yeah, there's a big sign, and it's old from when it used to be a porno theater, and it says 18 plus adult entertainment, but it's an
Yeah.
arcade now. And so, but he still has these machines in the back, and then the joke would be because I would do that stupid that needle retriever job, get $40. Oh, go
Yep.
to the dispensary, $15 a weed, like $15 on smokes, sushi, $10 2 liter cider, maybe
There you go.
arcade things, whatever. Yeah, and then go over there, and then so the trick was actually the porno machines still worked, and they were only like fucking like 25 cents, and they have weird labels on them, and it's a peep show. It's called because it's like a fucking like inch little box that you peer through, and there's a
Ugh.
screen there, right? And then so like, and there's I guess a curtain, so like you enter it, and then you peep, and then so like yeah, it's 25 cents, and they all have like weird almost like label stickers, like you would organize little things in a desk or something, right? And they say like
Okay. They
two
they
guys,
had a label
girl,
maker.
two girls, one guy, one girl. And so the joke would be I'd be like bringing somebody new to the arcade, get them drunk, we'll go jam some House of the Dead, whatever. I'd be like, hey man, they have like cool movies here, like some cartoons and shit. You want to come over here? And I'd jam a quarter into like two guys, one girl, and I'd be like, you just got to look through this little thing here, man. And I'd totally fuck people up with that. And that was like the most entertaining.
That's fucking brilliant. It's like, hey, come check this out, man. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
love it.
In reference, in Montreal, they had, I would call it the Kraken Jack, was I guess it was a porn shop, but it had like fucking like black plywood over the windows and fucking like purple neon and fucking like it didn't look like an appealing place. I don't think any normal person would go there. But so the Krakens go and they spend like it's 50 cents a shot to go in their rooms, I hear, and it's like smoke fucking crack all night, like $20 for the quarters, jack off all night, get turned out onto the street, horny and fucking high as fuck at 3 in the morning when it closes. And that
Fuck.
would be an actual occurrence at Montreal. You see like just a slew of crackheads coming out, and exactly that, just wound up in all the worst ways.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, here you just find tokens everywhere from the local sex shop. Oh, it's Canada's oldest sex shop, apparently. But anyways, they have a 50 cent thing where you go and you get tokens, and I guess you do that. But I find sex tokens around. They say sex, and then it's like, oh, heads you win, tails you lose, and there's an ass on the back, and you see like stacks of these things laying around that crack just lay everywhere from just like, oh, I'm done smoking crack. I'm gonna go back. Oh shit, I left my tokens.
It's almost like people. You should collect those instead of collecting coins. Just collect sex tokens.
Yeah,
Take them into like a Pawn Star or something like that. See if you can get on TV.
that would be pretty funny. Just any
Um,
coin.
when
Did
I
I
was
show
in
you?
Toronto, just speaking of sex shops, right quick, I decided to go in with Nick Mahar, our old buddy, and
Cool. Yeah, I remember this guy. He's pretty neat.
I could tell like, he was like, do you really? I was like, yeah, I want to go in and just check it out. I was like, let's see a Toronto sex shop. I was walking in there with him, and we walk in together, and the girl's like, hi, and I go, hi, how are you? And she's like, good. Anything in particular I can help you to find?
God, you guys went there together. No.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't pick up on it, but I could tell Nick was like wanting to jump out the window, and it was like 2 floors. So I'm like, dude, we got to go up and see the second floor. N- Nick is like sitting there, and then as we leave, he just goes, I'm pretty sure they thought we were gay. I was like,
Yeah,
what, you think?
rough.
I was so oblivious to
You're
it.
like, we're just small town. We're just two small town dudes stoned looking to laugh at fake dicks, but like that just wouldn't come across. Dude, yeah,
Not
and
the
I'm so
pic you sent me.
unexperienced. I was like 22 or something when I went to my first sex shop, and I remember absolutely just losing my shit every time. Oh, that picture I sent you, by the way, is all the oddities I find laying around here in Vancouver. I go on these massive walks around the seawall or
Is that a shell
otherwise.
casing?
Yeah, you know what's funny? You're the first person to be interested in this, and I'll explain to you the story. Is like I found this in the gravel nestled by a Starbucks. But so
Okay.
the funny story is 1 block away is the Wall Hotel, and that was actually the Starbucks of the Wall Hotel in the gravel. But then another block away is the Murray, which used to be a hotel, but is now SROs and filled with cockroaches and crackheads and bedbugs. So this is where I found that.
Oh,
in my
damn.
in my reasoning, I was like, I kept as a lucky charm is because nobody seemed to find this thing. Even if somebody shot it off in the air, the nuts you'd have to do that, and for the police to not find it.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and my other reasoning was that like if this got blasted at someone, that you'd probably have to if it like deserve that for somebody to pull like such a piece on you, kind
Yeah.
of view. So I was like, this is mutual kind of luck that I'm gonna pocket this, and it's a cool kind of oddity. And I'm sure whoever messed with, I never had like a fucking 50 caliber Desert Eagle pointed at me, sir. So you know what I mean?
Sounds like something straight out of The Wire, just comes up. He's like, I'm here.
Yeah. So it's like and this wasn't found around New Year's or any sort of particular holiday. It was really just some random day. I was like, holy shit, because I see shinies. So I was like, that ain't no shiny I see around Canada. That's a big piece of ammo. Like why was
Yeah,
this
yeah,
shot
yeah.
off in front of a fucking hotel?
Hey, I was gonna say maybe Calvin, this is you have a piece of like an old cold case or something. You could break it
I
with this
I
evidence.
so, but I've since I've given it to it's kind of funny. I nickname all these oddities around Vancouver because there's so many. Okay, so here's to preface Vancouver. They used to have, I forget if it was like Sunnyvale or something weird. No, Sunnyvale is Nova Scotia, isn't it?
We have Sunnyvale. We have a
Oh
few
no, that's Trailer
Sunnyvales,
Park. Oh my God.
and
So,
there's Trailer
anyways,
Park Boys. Yeah.
I can't remember Sunny something, but it's this old asylum in the 70s, and then at some point BC decided they're like, we don't have social funding for this. Bye bye, crazy people. Bye bye. Like
Okay.
imagine them just like deinstitutionalizing people who should be institutionalized. At the
Oh,
same
fuck.
time, it's funny because I was 70s. In the 90s, they were kicking people out of their apartments to turn them into hotels for the Olympics, for tourism. So you
Jesus Christ.
homeless people, crazy people, and in the 90s, like we're talking like crack and AIDS, and so at one point this place actually had more AIDS than Africa. It was ground
What?
zero for AIDS. Yeah, Vancouver. I'm serious. Like if you look at like it happened like crazy people, crack, AIDS, homelessness, like, and so we're on this epicenter of people also come here because how did that go? I guess there's something where it's like there used to be a railroad you could hop onto, like the Canada
Okay.
Rail, and something about like Alberta doesn't pay as much for disability or income assistance as it does here. So this place is a vacuum for all types of people who just want to do hard drugs. And it's also where all the crazy people are.
Man,
So anyway, so I
I'm just
picked
looking up Vancouver AIDS and seeing what's coming up.
right, like HIV. So I look up, and it's because of people sharing needles too. That's why it was worse than actual
Oh,
AIDS.
definitely.
Sex. So anyway, so I nicknamed my favorite crazy people, who seem altruistic in their own ways, or don't really seem like bad people. They're just like they probably had their own problems, but I'll nickname them with endearment
Okay.
because who's I forget which celebrity this guy mentioned that I was because I mentioned this guy to somebody else, and they're like, oh, I think it was Jim Morrison he was comparing him to or something. Anyways, there's this guy I call the Darkness. You
The
ever have a shit
darkness.
doing? Right, the Darkness, and I mean, he
Okay.
flicks his feet. This guy doesn't. Okay, this is okay, and he's beyond like goth because he's like street darkness. I mean, this guy doesn't shower. He always dresses in like jet black and like crazy overdressed, and he wears guy liner, and he's just like, like that stupid. I always quote this because there's no better way to describe this guy. But you know that like stupid YouTube song, the "I'm so emo, I don't that much, I don't
Yeah.
drink." He's that, but he encapsulates basically like you on your worst day when you don't want to talk to anyone, and you're like this. The world is you're the
Life is
darkness because
pain.
the world is a piece of shit. So like I
Yep.
like the. So I gave him my casing the other day. The other fun person I'll tell you about is a shadow warrior who shadow boxes on the sidewalk.
Uh-oh.
It's- I see this guy do this like every
Is he
so
a
often.
boxer or is he homeless?
He's just crazy. He just
Okay.
smokes, but he's not. He doesn't hit people. He hits like air around people. He just
Yeah.
walks up and down in shadow boxes. And so I've derived my own conclusions from this. So I'm like, the shadow warrior like battle nothing, and I'm like, there must be like bad vibe in the air because he doesn't hit people. He doesn't seem like aggressive or like out to hurt people. So I'm like, there must be something shadow warrior sees that I don't. So we always joke about him like battling bad spirits and evil vibes.
Keeping the streets clean from bad spirits.
Yeah, and then so funny enough, actually, that I find these weird trinkets on those days because I walk like every day, right? But I
Yeah.
find these trinkets, and then the vibe will be nice, and people will be drinking and not fighting when Shadow Warrior's out. So this is where I'm like, this guy's clearing up the bad vibe. It's really just something I place onto him, but I think it's pretty funny like that. It's coincidence, but yeah, I always get super lucky. I find bills, I find packs of smokes, and then I see Shadow Warrior. You know, it's funny. Like I'll find that Canadian dollar bill, the thing. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
there's that guy. Whoa, you know what? Come to think of it, it is a lucky night. People are chilling. What's up with that? So
the
yeah,
the
Shadow.
stuff you can find just walking around the city, it's because I live just out, like kind of out towards more like the suburb area. But when I used to be downtown as a college student all the time, the shit you used to see or the stuff you'd stumble upon was fucking like, whoa.
Right,
You know
and
what
then
I
I'm
mean?
like smack dab in dispensary and tourism country, so people get drunk and like lose shit, and oh, they're so rich they replace it. They don't,
Yeah, they
they
don't
don't
miss
really
it.
care. Right, yeah. And so you find some pretty weird stuff like speakers or I mean, so the one exception I do make is phones and wallets. For
Yeah,
phones, I'll text, the basically the last person that texts them or friends or family and be like, "Hey, I'm at." It's funny, dude. I actually live by a Granville Street that's actually the strip. So
oh,
I like to go from Granville Ferry, Montreal, and then it's like, "Oh, hey, I'm back around Granville." That's pretty funny. But and that's a thing that I found actually was a full shatter pen.
okay,
That was
that was
before,
just about to
that was
ask
before
what that
Rona,
was.
but I yeah opened that out up and did dabs with it. But yeah, so you just find people just like oh do just dropped like a fucking $80 thing of shatter on the ground,
Hmm.
whatever. So this is where I keep an eye out for stuff where I'll accidentally come across the bullet casing thinking it's something else and be like oh snap somebody died.
I remember being at work once and somebody dropped something out of their pocket. I didn't see them do it, but after they left, I go and I see it on the ground. I pick it up. It's a little dime bag with like 4 pills of ecstasy in it. I was like,
Oh, fuck
ooh.
yes. Okay. Uh, First time I did real. I'm not gonna call it real ecstasy, but the first time I did ecstasy, it had a P on it, and it was like half red and half yellow. It was pressed. And
Okay.
people I talked to, they were like, "Yeah, these guys made these pills a year ago. They're probably bunk. They're not going to do anything." And so that night, I was taking MDMA already. I took
Okay.
ecstasy, these things, and then they were like bumps. So I kept taking them, like two or three, and then
Yeah.
some mushrooms. And that was actually the highest that I'd ever been. And I'll
They
share
kicked
this
in
still with
late.
you. Yeah, but I was so high. I was actually convinced. I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I clearly took too much. If I panic out now, like it's going to kill me. I
Mm-hmm.
had better buckle down and just enjoy this. And I did. And I drank some water. And I was stupid fucking high. And the only thing that could wait it out was being high for like 2 days.
Oh
But I didn't.
shit.
Right. So, but if I'd panicked and went to the hospital, I would have tripped there. I would have had a totally not cool time. Maybe my heart would have like exploded,
Yeah,
end
yeah,
quote.
yeah.
You know
I
what I
see what
mean?
you're saying.
Yeah.
My
So mental. Yeah.
Totally. My brother, when he went to Toronto a few years back, he had his drink laced. Somebody laced his drink,
G.
and he's in this foreign city without any context. He was just out at the bar, and he's fucking freaking out. He calls my mom up on the phone, who's fucking in Nova Scotia, and she's like, "I can't go to the hospital. There's nothing I can fucking do." I was like, "Shit, fuck." I thought I had a bad time. I didn't get laced though.
I thought I got laced once, and I can't tell if this is because I'd smoked salvia and did
Mm.
mushrooms prior. Like, and when I say prior, I mean months prior, because I believed in kind of like, flashbacks. So it's like I was in Digby, and Digby's kind of different in that those guys all fuck with pills or do coke or something.
Oh yeah, pills are
So
big back there.
I was at Kirsten's, like my ex's friend's cousin's house kind of deal, like
Yeah.
not my mutual, not anyone who would like me. And I was out smoking this particular individual on the bong and on the lung and offering my own stuff. And I wasn't trying to be cocky about it or anything, but we were having a good time. Like I was just trying to get him high too.
Yeah.
And I remember being fed this thing. I can't tell if it was the vibe or really like what I was smoked on, because I remember it's like, okay, we're smoking weed. Okay, now I'm pulling some like crystal out of, and it was kind of a container, right? And it was like a powder. And I was like, okay. And I smoked that. And I remember sitting on this guy's couch, and like the cupboards, do you know what I mean? Like how like cabinets usually just look like straight, right? I'd
Yeah.
look up, and then they would start honeycombing, like
Ugh.
frack. And my ex was holding my hand, and I couldn't feel it. And I was watching this guy play Oblivion, and the fucking screen was like bleeding out to the edges. And I was like almost too high to talk. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think I've been laced. And I remember just walking out of this guy's house. I couldn't be sure that I hadn't been laced, but I
Yeah.
could get out of there that uh, I was upset, and I was like really ready to attack this individual. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I'm not gonna accuse him. I'm just gonna leave. Do you know what I mean?
Before
And
you
yeah, it
before you do
was.
something stupid or
Yeah,
something.
and great, exactly. And I went back to her friend's house, where I was now like laying on a couch, drinking water, still having these weird flashbacks, man. I'd be like closing my eyes. Actually, in this one, it was almost like a closed eye hallucination of sorts. So I think that I'm being laced.
Oh yeah. It's almost like a fever dream.
Right, so I close my eyes, and I'm watching paramedics like do the fucking resuscitations, like the chest pumps.
Oh shit.
Calvin, we're gonna call his parents. Calvin.
And is this actually
No,
happening or is this your hallucination?
no, this is just like I'm closing my eye, and I'm
Okay.
and I'm like, this doesn't happen when I smoke weed. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is why I still can't be sure to that day. But I think this guy got jelly that I was smoking him and hit me with some stuff.
Jesus
And
Christ.
on that, I'll add that sometimes I find full blunts and full joints and fucking, like I said, that shatter around here.
Yeah.
And there's that cross reference on the 420 fentanyl thing where, yeah, I found some like fat roaches one day, and I brought them back. And my ex was like, smoking. I was going to come back home, and really fucked up. But I was telling you that story how we Narcan that dude. So
Yeah.
since we carried Narcan, right, just in case. And so she had a Narcan herself because one of these roaches was fucking laced.
Oh
And so like I
shit.
came back and shit was flailed around everywhere. She had gotten a needle out and fucking got the Narcan and like poked herself in the leg, and all she remembers is her vision scrolling and almost passing out. And I was like, yeah, that's clearly not weed. So yeah,
Fuck.
there's dangers like that, dude. It's kind of weird. Like you don't even fuck with fent, but it's just in stuff because some idiot put it there.
I don't fuck with shit from people who I don't personally know or trust. And like if I found something on the street, nope, nope.
And
I'm
you know what's scary? I'll tell you
what?
something else about like fentanyl and kind of a cross reference here from Molly. So Molly I've taken is usually beige. It can be like whitish beige. It can also be brown. It can have purple chunks in it. It's
Okay.
usually Molly. At least out east, it's Molly. Like we didn't have fentanyl. Actually, the bunk drugs people had was they would buy they thought was pills and it would be salt or sugar and they would inject dye. It's kind of fucked up, but at least it's not fent. So
Yeah.
out here, people would offer you moly or something, but and fentanyl comes like blue, purple, green. So when people say, "Hey man, here's some moly," it's white, it's purple. You're like, "Ha, yeah, I don't think so."
Yeah. No,
You
thank you,
can't, you
sir.
really can't, you can't play with drugs like I did out east.
No.
Here, I've done acid twice, and I did mushroom chocolates. I guess I was sure of myself that nobody would put fentanyl in mushroom chocolates, so I ate them. And
Yeah.
same with acid is, I was sure that like I've done analogs of acid, like DOB, which is like, yeah, it's kind of like 2CB. It's an enhancer. It's supposed to be taken with acid, but it's what we have out east in Montreal. That's a research chemical. Stupid cheap too in comparison. I remember in reference it was like 200 for a sheet of 100. I thought I would flip it on 10. Ended up taking a lot of it and giving it away.
Jesus. So here's a question. What's the point of people like say here have some Molly with and it's fentanyl or laced with fentanyl? What's their end game? Is it just to fuck with people or?
Quick cash. And you know what else is dirty is so the junkies do around here is because well, I don't know. So I've had enough friends that talk about this stuff, and I've seen people that deal with it. And
Yeah.
so everybody basically is walking around a zombie. They need to get high every day on stupid heroin or take methadone. And so they'll
Hmm.
do weird shit like score drugs from each other, or if they're incapable of shooting it, they'll ask each other to like do a shot up. Like, hey
Yeah.
man, can you shoot me in my neck? I'll shoot you in my neck, or whatever, or etc. So fucking, there's this dirty trick people do is they'll sell people intentionally like fentanyl. Be like, hey, yeah, I'll pack your first bowl, or I'll do your shot up, haha, and then run off with your wallet. This happened to a dude who was like 50 years old who's from Quebec. I happen to be friends with. He was a drinker, but somebody ran off of his wallet while he was dying. And
Jesus
then there's this
Christ.
other one who's a guy my age who he's kind of off the rails. I only talked to him once or twice at that program, working with people. Told me about this thing called a hot shot, which is people load up a syringe intentionally filled with fentanyl to, hey man, yeah, I'll fix you. I got a spare shot just to deload you of your drugs in your backpack and your so like street people are usually not that nice, but they can
No.
be, but it's really like sparse,
Oh
especially out here.
yeah.
It's nuts.
No, I go by the mantra, do not trust anybody. You know.
Me too. And I was already like that with normal people. And then I came onto the street, like I had my brushes with it, and then it was like, okay, time to crank that up to like 12.
Oh yeah, yeah,
'Cause
yeah. You got to keep eyes in the back of your head.
what's interesting though is that same deal where like, if you keep putting obstacles in somebody's way, you'll find, yes, a lot of these people couldn't handle it. They smoke crack, they go crazy, they whatever.
Yeah.
But every so often you'll find people who are resilient and build character through these things, and the smart people who will just stick to weed.
Oh
And
yeah.
but it's not almost it's that kind of cool thing is not like enough to push you out there and start talking to people because of the crazy types that are
No.
dangerously violent and unpredictable.
Well, that's the thing. You know, you gotta that person's got to have a vibe about them or some. Because I find like when somebody is not a or who someone who's potentially dangerous, your body picks up on that. Your gut starts telling you something, and you
You
feel
tense
it. You
up,
don't. Yeah, you don't know what it is, but you know something's off, and you put your
right?
guard up. Like we had this
There's
guy that
that.
used to come into a gas station,
Mm.
and he came in and he would just talk to you, but like your body told you that this guy is something's wrong, and he ended up trying to rob us.
Right,
But
because yeah,
and you know the police caught him, but it was like you just knew when he was around. It's like I eventually ended up taping a box cutter next to the silent alarm, and I kept a crowbar by the cash register. It was just that point where it's like people would come in late at night. You're like, I will deck you right in the teeth. I do not care.
I saw somebody that had been maced that was standing outside the ER, and the woman was pouring milk all over them.
Oh fuck yeah!
It's pretty
Oh
funny.
fuck yeah! You don't fuck around with mace. That fuck.
I
Oof.
um I carried some dog spray in Montreal. I carried a variety of things but it's funny, I never had to use any of them. Actually,
That's good.
it
It's
was
always good
nice
to have
experience.
something though, just for that added extra of like just to create distance.
Right. I had this fun story with dog spray though, okay, because they sell it as dog spray because they can't legally sell you pepper spray because it's not allowed in Canada. So they sell you
Yeah,
dog spray for the post carriers that are to fend off angry dogs who
yeah,
attack you while they're delivering mail. So you're like, yes, I've been attacked in a dog park before, and this is why I carry dog spray. Wink, wink.
yeah.
Do you understand me? So like, yeah, so I was carrying this, and then there's this guy I was smoking hash with, gonna buy some hash off of because I lost my weed that night, being ripped off from these guys in the mountain, et cetera, et cetera. Well, like, weed is still illegal at this point in Montreal, so like, you can't just be like, yo, the cops, this guy ripped me off on.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
hanging out with this guy to buy hash, and I'm showing him my pepper spray, and he's like, oh, like this, and he pulls the safety off, and he gives a little spritz out, and I catch it on the back of my neck, and it's like the most temporarily awful sunburn ever.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
can't, yeah. So that's my experience with it, and I've seen people who have been actually hosed down with it, which is pretty funny. And I
Yeah,
mean,
I've
hosed
never
down
I've
with
never
bare
had it happen, but I've seen the results of it. It's just like, oh fuck.
story I can like contribute on that. What's this guy? Dustin Adams, right?
Oh
Would
yeah.
be Buster, and he earned this reputation for just going full beast mode. And there's that one
Mm-hmm.
story at a party, somebody pulled bear mace on him and got him in his eyes, but he was so angry that he charged them anyways. And I have a story. I have kind of it's kind of a personal anecdotal story, but
Just for the
so
audience listening, right quick, Buster was a guy. He was the guy in school who he just had crazy strength. Chill dude, but it set him off, and holy fuck, watch the fuck out. Anyway, Calvin,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, anyways, that personal anecdotal story about like him charging through the bear
Mm,
mace, what I'll add on to that is so like I end up passing that dog spray to my woman, being like, if I'm ever alone from you, that you can have this, right? Don't pull the knife, don't let it reverse, don't stupid, just
yeah,
mace. That's all you need. So yeah, dropped her off a couple blocks away from the women's shelter at that time because we were in between couch surfing. And so
yeah,
it's too cold to sleep outside in Montreal at some point. So yeah, drop her off a couple blocks away, was on my way in the metro. I guess she was walking back at this point, and there's someone who knows notoriously how defenseless the woman's shelter is, just waiting in the bushes, and grabbed her and stuff. But I guess
oof,
she like sprayed him in the face and kicked him in the nuts.
good for her.
But same deal. But this guy was like 350, 400 pounds, the mace didn't stop him. She had to kick him in the nuts and like punch him a little bit and then run away.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I'll add on to that is that stuff is maybe good for animals, but somebody like Buster and 300 pounds and through rage and through
Oh yeah,
whatever
some
that things
it
are
is
not
if they could be hyped up on something too. They don't feel things.
that too. Yeah, exactly. Totally. Dude, you ever hear of those PCP junkies? My favorite game is actually Narc. Did you ever play
Okay. Narc,
Not the
no.
biggest one. Okay, yeah, I'll send you this. Especially a spot you could play it online would be cool. But anyway,
Was
so
it wasn't that an old Xbox game where you could like do drugs like lewds and shit like that? You were a
this
cop?
is the remake that was kind of loose about it, but
Okay.
I like the 1970s arcade scroller that was adapted to consoles from Maine. And so yeah, it opens up, winners don't use drugs, and the police aren't police. They're in like leather vests and fucking leather suits, and they drive a Ferrari with like James Bond machine guns,
Yeah, yeah,
and they
yeah.
wear motorcycle helmets, and you have like a machine gun with a rocket launcher, and you can bust cokeheads and stuff, and you can gun them down, and you run into basically different stereotypes of what the 70s thought of different
Drug
vagrant drug
users.
users, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so uh, yeah, so the heroin guys, they just walk around shifty with a coat on, and they have drugs on their person. The
Yeah.
next level of them, they whip syringes at you, right? And then you encounter, weird naked clown people that like to abduct hookers. This is
Jesus
what I'm saying.
Christ.
It's really great. And then everything is just like an amplified ghetto, like a cartoon version of the ghetto. And so eventually you encounter PCP steroid users, and they have bullet holes in their heads, and they're like the Hulk, but not green. And they're walking around anyways with bullet holes in their heads, and they're like picking up dumpsters and heaving them. Like, did you see the PCP Ninja on YouTube? This is one of my favorite clips. Do you know what the
No,
PCP Ninja ring a bell?
no, I can't say I've seen that.
So this guy is African American. He looks like Death Grips, and he's wearing this like Gore-Tex green military poncho and some matching like suspenders, like Metal Gear style. And he's like posed up like half Dracula, half ninja, like peering over his fucking poncho, but he's high on PCP.
Okay.
And then like a whole like SWAT police team trying to disarm the situation because I can't remember. I think he has a knife and he swings it wildly like Bruce Lee while taking like 60 pepper balls and a taser to him, and then but keeps going and does this like flying ninja kick. But I'll link you to this video.
Oh my god, dude, I'm watching it right now. He's in like this.
Yeah,
He's got like nunchucks or something, and he just does like a fucking like side kick to the guy's
nunchuck.
head.
That's a ninja. Yeah,
What
not
the
a
fuck?
knife.
They're just
Yeah,
nailing him. Oh my god.
he just runs through it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then they just swarm him.
it's crazy. So
I
yeah, PCP.
remember being outside. I was in a bar. It was right towards the holidays, and the bar was right across the street from a Salvation Army that was also a halfway house, right? And I'm looking outside the window, and I see this guy, and his body language. I can't hear what he's saying, but his body language he's pissed off about something. Skinny dude, right? Definitely a drug addict. Anyway, I see
Yeah, one of
this
those.
two cops cars pull up, one cop car and one van, right? And I look at my girlfriend and go, check this out. And we're watching. And what happens is he's yelling at the cops, and the cops, there's five of them, four guys, one woman, and they're closing in on him, like surrounding him. And he realizes this, and the woman cop's behind him. So he's mouthing off to the big dude, and then all of a sudden he turns around and decks the lady cop, right, with everything he has.
What the
He
fuck?
knocks her on her ass, and then I swear to God, I've never seen a man hit the sidewalk faster than when those four cops just grabbed him, and then he was just on the ground, and they're kicking the shit out of him on the fucking street. And I'm like, well, this guy's not gonna have a fucking good Christmas, but holy fuck, was it funny to watch that guy get the shit beaten out of him for it. I was like, yep, you kind of
Dude,
deserve that.
I have a funny story about kind of this kind of situation and cooperativeness with police.
Yep.
So the second, third week into Montreal and into my fucking MDMA binge, living at this guy's like shifty apartment, that my hair was purple and I had a septum piercing and I was wandering around in like MC Hammer pajamas. And so I was carrying back a bunch of groceries and like a pack of smokes that had a 3.5 of weed and a 3.5 of Molly on the bottom, right?
Okay.
Like half pack of smokes. So and I had this nestled in some groceries, and so I'm walking back to this apartment in a particularly bad neighborhood. Of course, where else would this apartment be?
Yep.
So the police stop me, French police, and they're really scary because sometimes they don't speak English, dude. So it's like you're being picked up by aliens. Like the one time I got arrested and they didn't speak anything, they just turned me loose at some point, but I didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like they stopped me and they're like, you fit the description of a fucking break and entering, and I'm like, oh great, this is my second week here. My hair is purple. I'm wandering around in fucking
And you've got a
pajamas and
specific
septum.
look to you, and yet you still manage to fit the
Yeah,
description of
like
somebody.
this is just my luck, right? Like, and then I'm well aware of this like this fucking 3.5 of Molly, which then I learned later is like equivalent to like 12 years in fucking prison because of the scheduling. So anyway, so they're stopping me. They're like, yeah, you look like Dada and like whatever. And I'm like handing them my fucking passport and my Nova Scotia ID. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is right. And then like but at the same time, they're ruffling through my shit, right?
And you're
And
thinking, fuck,
I
fuck,
see
fuck.
them opening up my pack of smokes as they're going through my groceries. And they see the weed. Clearly they see the weed. Clearly they see the smokes. All they had to do is like take out my weed. Maybe they even did. But just because I was the person that they weren't looking for and I was cooperative, totally let me go.
Nice.
They were not out to wreck my day. I tripped
Good.
balls. That could have like totally changed my life, but it was just being nice to the police. They were just
I
looking for whoever.
I've only had to have a few conversations with police before, and it's just because they broken up a party I've been at and I've been drunk, and they'd be like, "You need to go home." I'm just like, "I'm just going to the bus officer. I'm just gonna go sit over here, not bother anybody." And I find just being cooperative with the police has helped me. I mean, obviously, as a white dude, that I get a lot more lenience than
Dude,
people of color. But I still just like I've been around some people who will just argue with them. I'm like, dude, just shut the fuck up. You're gonna get me arrested, you fucking asshole.
Yup.
Oh,
Dude,
here's another story. You might find this funny because everybody really enjoys this story. This guy, we were outside. This is my first year of college, and I'm standing outside waiting for the bus. And this homeless guy. He's got like a cup full of nickels, and he's shaking it at people walk by. He's not saying anything. He's like strung out of his mind. And then this jackass comes up to him who's got like the worst jailhouse tattoos all over his
right, just like
face.
kicks the cup or something, right?
Well, he's got no shirt on, and what he starts doing is he starts chucking change at him, like actually at him.
Wow.
And he goes, "What? You too good to talk to me, you punk motherfucker?" Like. And then a cop van rolls around the corner, hits their brakes hard, and they come out and talk to him. And the guy's like, "Why are you fucking hassling me?" And the cop's like, "Listen, you're gonna go to jail if you keep mouthing off." And the guy tries to run. The cop slams his head into the ground, right?
Gee.
And then the guy's like, "All these people here are gonna witness your police brutality," and all the people at the bus stop, including me, just look the other way. They're like, "No, you brought this on yourself." But what
Yeah.
made it so funny is the homeless guy. So the guy's pinned on the ground with his hands behind his back. The homeless guy like squats down in front of the guy and shakes his coin cup at him one last time.
That's
It was, it was the greatest fuck you in history.
okay. On fuck yous, so again, on that Granville Strip where everyone's partying despite Corona, there's
Hmm.
people like legit, like laying on the sidewalk, smoking crystal meth, shooting heroin, whatever.
Yep.
And they'll get salty at the people who have money and they're having drinks and they're having a good time sometime, like for whatever reason. Maybe they asked to smoke and they didn't get it or whatever.
Yeah.
But so there's some friction gets generated, and I'm looking at this guy because there's this exchange across the road from I thought two normal people, but it turns out to be this gay yuppie, and then from the P corner of the strip club where there's like an office chair and a bunch of shit and a bunch of people laying around. And he's like, "Oh, you have a good time." And he's like, "Yeah, I will, you fucking skits. I'm not fucking sitting around in a bunch of He just kept like pressing on calling this guy skits because maybe that's what set him off, and that's what used to set me off is the schizophrenics here is like if you look at them for even just doing some weird shit or whatever, like they'll be digging shit out of the cracks in the sidewalk. One of my
Yeah.
favorites, this guy was like digging rocks out of a construction lot, convinced that they were like dinosaur bones.
Oh
Um,
fuck.
but so you'll see people doing shit like this, and you'll look at them, and they'll be like, "What? Why are you looking at me? Fuck you, you goof!" And so
Yeah.
I think that this guy just didn't take that, so he was just pressing on this guy, calling him the skits, and then fucking, and it's because that like they're not gonna fight you. Like they don't want to go to jail because jail means for assault that's a 24-hour detox.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can call these people out on that and just be like, "Hey, listen, dude, you're just being salty," pretty much. Or you can ignore them, which is what I do. But
Yeah.
and on the
Same.
West Coast, people talk a lot of shit and they won't fight you. On the East Coast, people talk shit before they fight you. This is what I'll tell you. I don't
Okay.
know how it is in Alberta. I haven't really been there. There are a lot of weird cowboy big dick. Oh, look at me, I live in Alberta, duh. Okay, so look at me, I live in Montreal, duh. Look at me, I live in Halifax, duh. Look at me, I live in. Everyone knows you live in a city. If you can function like a normal human being and retain small city values, then you're kind of like worth of some value. But
Yeah.
people who succumb to like, I'm Canadian 90210. No, I'm Canadian 90210. Look at
Oh
my
yeah.
big city Instagram life. Oh, you're a piece, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So these
Just
rich
completely
cities kind of have
phony.
it. It's inherited. But then what's weird is so you have no middle class. You have
Yeah.
here in particular, talking to me is maybe I would represent sort of middle class, but even I'm on some sort of like thing.
Yeah.
Like I smoke weed and I live in an SRO, right? But that's at best subsidized housing is what you're looking to get because the rent market is so expensive.
Oh
But
my God. Fuck. I can't imagine how
somehow
bad it is
people
up there.
afford the $2,000 condo and a car and food on top of that, and so it's either that or you're broke on East Hastings Hastings, by the way, is funny because there's this cross section in Maine, and there's this thing people used to refer to it as as a pain and wastings, and it's because Canadian Skid Row, where literally everyone's a zombie, and it's
Yeah, I've heard
supposedly
of
the
that
worst
place.
postal code in Canada, right? So you're either a yuppie, you live in your 2K condo, and you tell people that they're garbage because they are literally like they don't want anything for their lives, and they're sleeping by a turd in a dumpster and shooting heroin.
Yeah.
But people are still evil, and they still pick on them. So it's like, yeah, only the middle class is maybe the more down to earth.
Oh my God, yeah. It's funny because I don't consider myself broke. I'm like lower class, but I don't consider myself broke. But it's funny. I've got this fucking like almost instant hatred for rich kids. I think it's rich kids who are just more like loud, obnoxious. Like fuck off, you ain't got any problems. Like when I hear them being like, "Yeah, my mom won't let me throw a party this weekend." It's like you.
Well, no, that, but they do have problems. It's funny. It's personality problems. It's not the same
Yeah,
sort of shit that you would work out if you were left to your own means. Like here, you're
yeah,
like, well, I don't have $1 million to spend, so I'm not out driving my Fiat and getting drunk. I'm having a sincere podcast with my buddy Calvin.
yeah.
Right. So like, you make your own means and you develop character through resilience. These people have no resilience. When I tell myself this, even with these brushes in Montreal and stuff, take like, okay, there was this one night I slept -30 in a -15 sleeping bag, and I put hand warmers in the shit, and I woke up a-okay. This is one of the things that motivated me to like leave to BC, right? So
Yeah.
I tell myself, even if I didn't make a bunch of money doing that, that represents a lot of resilience. That I used to be one of those people too who could get locked out of their apartment. When I first started doing this shit, and I was out with my girlfriend for the first time, who I went on the streets with, I piled a bunch of clothes on her, and I stayed up all night. So to be sleeping in -30 from -15 sleeping bag may not make much money, but shows a lot of resilience. So I feel like
Definitely.
if I put somebody through that, they might die, but people would still call me a bum.
No,
But
definitely. Yeah. Like there's when I was in Toronto, like there's Halifax homeless, and I'm not trying to disparage against homeless in Halifax or downplay, but then I went to
it's
Toronto, and
different
it's like I
problems,
saw
right? Yeah,
Toronto
big city
homeless.
problems.
I
Yeah,
was like, holy
Halifax is so
shit.
like big and so screwed up. I don't know. It's kind of weird because like I guess small city problems people, and I mean people that didn't adapt from that, will just go to Halifax and then I'm Mr. Big Dick, but in Halifax. Halifax is not really like,
No,
like actual drug problems totally or all this actual
no,
gang activity, human abduction, people that actually, stuff that actually screws people up.
yeah, it's
You know what
got
I'm
its
saying?
problems, but not on a massive scale as like a Vancouver or Toronto or an Edmonton.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a
Edmonton.
relative perspective.
Yeah.
Like if someone trying to say, "Oh, I'm hard," because I'm from the streets of Halifax, it's like sure, relative to Halifax, but if you go
Big.
up to someone who's like from the slums of Cuba, it's like, there's a big difference.
And what's weird is so like I don't know because I haven't done Halifax.
Mm.
I've known people who went through it, and I looked at their shelters. I haven't done Halifax, but like I did Montreal, and actually that was funny because it's like I was in that MDMA place, and this place seemed pretty legit. And by the way, this guy was a guy I'd only known from a 2-week trip who I'd seen carving his name on the table, and I was like, this guy seems like another introvert. I'm gonna go smoke weed with him. Later, he tells me that his house is a rave venue, and that I can have a room and a shower, except the walls are made of plastic covered in wook drawings, and the bed is a bunch of stuffed animals. But there is a shower.
But there's a
And so once
shower,
I got
right?
tired of like living in this place and piling Molly to my face and seeing strangers breezing in and out and like weird shit, I was like, okay, I got money. I don't know where to live. I don't have references. I'm just gonna kick it. So I did outside for 2 weeks until I found, and I'm serious, like the one youth shelter, which was a blessing in Montreal, Dan's LaRue, and then they have that's the day center. They have the actual night shelter, the bunker, which is like pretty much like some sort of homeless summer camp. It's pretty weird. We're talking like bilingual Bad Boys 2, popcorn, French South Park, good meals, a shower. They'll hook you up with socks. They're really loving. They're like the Big Brothers kind of staff, sister.
Okay.
It's homey. It's not really government yet. It's a donations run and through love, and that's
There's
why.
still warmth in there. It's not just like, okay, you're a number, get in.
Right. And so, yeah, exactly. And then, but this only works for so many days in and so many days out. And that's for people who run away from home or are under the mandate of, I think it's 16 to 24. When you
Oh,
age out, it's kind of weird. And so I was at the men's shelter for a little bit, the classier one. And so this is like it's kind of like a shared, it would almost be like a dormitory, I would imagine. A dormitory full of people who may have been to prison or on their way to prison, and some people who are
Fuck.
just like stoners and homeless like me. And so they give you a locker, there's a big TV, there's a pool table, there's a smoking room, there's a cafeteria, and then upstairs there's wings of beds. And on the beds you have a cubby for your shoes and stuff. And there's like a row of showers with the most generic kind of body hair wash, and they'll give you
Yeah, yeah,
razors.
like basic no name brand.
Right? Yeah. So
You
you
can buy
have
in
the
bulk.
luxury. You have the luxury of staying at this place a month in and a month off, and that's free of rent and free of charge, and that's just cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so like it was my month out that I had to do that -30 thing, and that was in the middle of December. So that's actually what inspired me to go to BC. Is I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do another month of basically chilling in the metro because all the street youth who are also in between these places that don't take you in all day, basically. So
Yeah.
a lot of the day in the summer, it's cool. You just start on the park, and it's stoner circles, and it's people just show up with massive amounts of weed and Bluetooth speakers, and it's not that much different from kind of the parking lot vibe in AWEC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nobody had any obligations all day but to get high and sit around and chill.
Yeah.
We just bounced out anyone out of the park who wasn't adhering to that vibe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. But that's not like doable in the winter though.
No, fuck no.
Yeah. And then out in Vancouver, there's no kind of camaraderie or community or uh, the street youth here are different from my experience. You couldn't circle up in a park, chill, and like whatever. Somebody's up to use you or try to harness the power of a group to go do some bad shit or be really heat. Or there's this one guy who legit came around and tried passing a fent joint in our circle. I didn't take a puff off it. My girlfriend didn't take a puff off it. I think he was actually just trying to like subdue this woman who was reasonably younger than him, but he was
Fuck.
fucking up my friend Jay. And so I just sat around and I fed him water, and I was, dude, like I know you're same deal with the scrolling vision and him going clammy and turning white and stuff, but he didn't actually like OD,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't use any of that stuff. But it's funny, the woman he was trying to like lace, I think, used so much of that stuff it did nothing to her, but it fucked my buddy Jay up. So
Damn.
people just show up in your circle. This, by the way, this guy who did that, we call him Meth Rogan. But who does he
Meth Rogan.
actually looks like John Meth Riley, I guess, by my ex's account. So it shows up like a fucking headband, like Meth Bob Ross, basically. And I'm talking about the afro and the shit.
I
Yo,
can
man, you
picture
got
it.
a joint, yeah. And then, but it's fucking fentanyl, so it's like you dirtbag.
Piece of shit.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Burns your trust, because you're used to high school drama and city people shit. Like they just want to fuck you or use your stuff or something weird motive based. But then on the street, it's like the Wild West.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And as a woman, I guess it's even weirder. That person he was trying to lace was one of Kat's friends. I forget why she came out here, but she had that weird account of, anyways, that place that I found the 50 caliber shell, the Murray, which is that hotel that got converted into the bed bug SRO. So by her accounts, she got locked in there and fed drugs for 3 days. And it's only when you sober up and you find a way out of some grungy apartment. But some people don't find their way out of the grungy apartment, dude.
Yeah.
People just literally prey on. And we know it's screwed up. So like I would see, like how we sit around and smoke joints. There's this one time on that needle route I was doing, and this is like a park particularly out of the way. But basically a bunch of like 16, 18-year-olds smoking fucking meth on some steps. Like a fucking joint.
Fuck. So young too.
Jeez. Yeah, because AWEC, we just remember there was Blake Ripley who had like muscle relaxers that Shell found by calling the RCP, but no real drugs. And people would snort Tylenol 3, but we didn't have drugs. It's not like kids could get hooked up on ice. It's
there was
kind of
there was nothing hardcore.
right. Yeah, or the one homeless guy we had was Marshall, but I've met people as young as like I think like 12, 13 on the streets, and it's like you just try to mentor them and be like, you really need to not be here, because even as an adult, it's hard to comprehend or navigate, right? So it's like, holy, you would never in a million years in Annapolis see somebody 13, 14 on the streets because their parents fucked them up or they're taking drugs or something. It's like,
No, absolutely not. Small
right?
town problems, like small town problems. Like I'm actually very grateful to grow up where I did, to where I didn't have those
Yeah.
issues. You know what I mean?
See, and so like I forget what we were talking about that you laughed at earlier, but like this is where I kind of phased out, and that limited my communication for some time.
Yeah. Well,
You
you've
know,
probably seen so much shit that it's almost like it
yeah.
weighs on you and you become jaded. It's almost like you don't want to reopen yourself to the world because you
Well,
know
no,
how
it's
shit it
I
can
can
be.
no, I can do it. It's basically like, and in some strange way, it's cool. It's funny to me too, and you shouldn't be able to actually laugh at how screwed up things are. And
Yeah,
but it's and I mean, it's funny how like basically everyone has problems.
definitely.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Excuse me, I'm just gonna like take a shot here. Right,
Yeah, for sure.
okay. And what I'm going to and okay, and so this was cool and it's real, and I don't mind sharing unfiltered Calvin experience with you,
Okay.
but the residual guilt comes from that people were really burned on that their new YouTuber didn't put out a thing, or that their next movie has got an actor in it, or the kind of problems that I've encountered are actually things that could actually make a human being feel really bad from hearing. So I
Yeah.
actually abstain from sharing uh, fully because I don't really want to communicate some what I've already dealt with and phased out from may actually like shock some people basically. And while I'm all cool with that, I'm not really okay with disturbing someone with some of the honestly like kind of bad traits I've seen in people. Like I said, you might see like, oh, so and so in the city is kind of a dirtbag, or oh, at school a dirt. And then there's like street people who have no remorse and
No,
so on and so
absolutely.
forth, right?
They're
I don't think
predators.
humanity already when you watch the news, right? You don't have a lot of faith in it.
No.
If I tell you about if we're all tossed out in the street, how things are going to go, you'd really not have faith in humanity either.
No, 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 absolutely not.
Right. But I'm glad that we can talk about it and stuff. And you seem actually what down to earth enough to be able to process this. And I like hearing your cool gas station stories and stuff too, because that's not
Oh,
something I've dealt with. And I think that's what it is a an exchange as long as it's productive and it's not scary and it's educational. You know, you got to
it's an
learn.
eye opener, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
but
all the
one thing,
stuff.
you know, it's taught me to be humble no matter where I am. Now, if I have a job, it's not a needle job. It's not a fishing boat. If I have a roof, it's not a shelter. You know, I
Yeah,
just got out of a really bad relationship. Now, the next relationship I'm in, I'm good. So actually, once you do all of that, you know, and you kind of, I'm not, I tell people, I'm like, actually, you can swirl the drain a little bit and you can have fun. Just don't touch hard drugs. Don't, you can color out the lines outside of the lines a little bit, right? And have fun, but don't fuck yourself up too bad. But by doing that, that you gain all these weird virtues from, you know, just a little bit.
I get what you're saying. Almost like no matter what path or whatever choice you make, you're going to gain experiences from it. You're going to change with it.
This is what I talk. You know, it's funny. And then, like, I think we were even mentioning this yesterday. Is that like, you know, you can collide and not have to make the same unconventional bad mistakes. And it's really the kind of person you are that will learn from it and better yourself. And because that you've been doing that for so long, that should run into you later on in life, and that you're also developing the same virtues, no matter how that you've done that. And it's the process of how you analyze it, not really what you do, what you take from it. Some people don't take
Absolutely.
anything from it, right?
Yeah, like my mother always kind of told me she's like, you can look at things two ways. You can learn from it or you can let it destroy you. What are you gonna do? So I've kind of had that like, shit's bad now. Okay, how can I make it better and how can I move forward?
Right. There's this fun one is a trick that my dad taught me because he yeah, was in the Navy. He was a little bit of a drinker. He did LSD. He stopped and became not exactly Zen. Like he's not religious because he hates religion. It was pushed on
Yeah,
him, but he meditates to kind of achieve that, whatever.
yeah,
And that's this philosophy with enduring stuff and then gaining tolerance from it, you know. And it's kind of weird how like, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, one thing that's clicked on with me too is I had to tell myself for a while, I'm like, if you're not aware of your ego, it's going to be working against you, and you have to tell yourself that you can work against yourself. before you can fully cooperate with yourself. You know what I mean? That's what drugs kind of helps you do is quiet your ego down because you get so high that you're like you literally can't think of anything else basic besides staying alive. You're like, I better not stick this fork in an outlet or wander around naked in traffic. I'm
Yeah.
just quoting shit people do on LSD, right? Jump out the window. But so
Yeah.
you have no like, who is Dylan? What is Dylan gonna eat? What's Dylan's favorite? Because that is
Yeah.
kind of so you like, shut up, ego, and then you realize like, actually, it's something important to stay alive and not wander out in traffic naked, and all these other weird things you put on yourself are actually your ego weighing you down. So you have to kind of purge it a little.
I totally relate to that in a different sense, but like just as far as my career goes and how I've tried to navigate the entertainment world on the East Coast, of just knowing that, sometimes you can be your own worst enemy. Your ego or your pride or
You can also be
your
your own best
mindset
friend,
can
your
get in the
best
way.
teammate too, though. And but people
Exactly.
forget all that. Yeah,
I've always, had this mindset of when I look in the mirror, I can either, like you said, you can either be your best friend or your hardest opponent you're ever going to meet in life. But understanding that both of those exist, I think helps.
right.
Realize like, okay, I'm fucking things up right now, but I can be better. I can make this better for me.
Yeah, and yeah, it's pretty funny because it's like you only do that because you have the concept of self-discipline intact. So somebody might not be able to examine themselves like that. But I was gonna say, and then on that note, one trick I use to navigate drugs, like, and I mean psychedelics, DOB, LSD, mushrooms, MDMA, is your brain is a tool of measurement, right? And once that you've slipped, you can't tell exactly how much you've slipped
Yeah.
because it's going to be measuring itself. So you have to be really delicate with that. This is why I'll return to old friends and talk to them and make sure that I've wandered out a little bit on the fringe, but that I've came back with some good information because that means that it's a good way to affirm where you're at. I don't know if you do that too. Return to old things.
I think it's always good to just touch base, 'cause that way you don't get too far. You don't go too far. You don't get too far into the clouds. It's almost like trying to keep yourself grounded. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, yeah, but you can't like lose track of your roots and what you liked and you found important either.
No, you never forget where you came from.
That's like what gets you by, right? So you got to like maximize that in a
Absolutely.
healthy way, right? Yeah.
Yes. That's the thing. You can find some very destructive ways, like that you where your roots have come from, or where that you could allow to take over in a negative
Like
way.
you like to socialize, but you're antisocial. Okay, time to rip on people online.
Yeah,
It's like that would be an example of a bad vent. People are thinking that, hey, I'm utilizing my maximum potential. I'm getting my needs fulfilled. But I mean, that's your ego causing you to do this weird stuff. It's like, but you check yourself every now and then, which is good. It's a good skill.
what do they say? Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Because shotgun bullets are bad for your health, and that brings it all around.
Yeah.
Fuck. I wonder if that guy said that before he shot off that shell that you found. Probably not,
Yeah.
but
Check yourself. Yeah. Maybe.
you never know. It sounds like a bad movie, though.
Some
So,
follow-up Boys in the Hood sequel.
fuck. So Calvin, what are you doing now, if you don't mind me asking? What are you doing for work?
I'm on disability for my torn ACL.
Oh
That's kind of a
shit.
that's kind of a fun story on its own. Should I breeze over it? So I used to get way stupid drunk and do these physical maneuvers that I mean, obviously I would not think that I would nor would be able to like perform or want to because I would hurt myself. But this
Yeah.
is the story about alcohol and your judgment calls. And so yeah, I jumped this rock. It was almost like fire hydrant height, and I did like this like spinning 360, almost like a no scope. And I was like planning to like land on the other side, and my knees buckled, and my legs stayed planted, but the whole upper body and then from my knee up kind of rotated, and I tore my ACL, which
Fuck.
is yeah. And so I got that. It's funny. I'd fished and I'd hobbled around on it. I walked around for like 2 weeks, even though the doctor's like, actually, you shouldn't be able to walk. I was like, well, I want to be able to like have my muscle. keep it intact.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I walked around, I fished. I walked up this hill to Devon's. I'm sure you remember Devon. You've
Devin,
probably been there
Devin.
once. Devon Medicraft.
Oh, fucking
Right. So
Metacraft.
I would walk up that hill from my place with my tore ass ACL for the 2 weeks, and then funny to come out that oh, you shouldn't be walking on it. But that's only after I leaned on them that it was certainly not a sprain. That I needed an X-ray, and they're like, yeah, okay, your ACL is torn. So I made do, and I waited, and I got my surgery, and then that was all good for a little bit. It stopped drifting out of place because basically your kneecap, and your leg will just pop out.
Yeah, yeah.
Really weird.
My brother
So
used to have that happen to him a
right,
lot.
and funny enough, my dad has a torn ACL, and he has a surgery too, but his is like the old school version with like Gore-Tex and screws and like wire. My
Yeah.
ACL repair is a hamstring from a dead guy, which I guess my
Oh,
body didn't reject, and then stapled after being looped around my knee. So I
okay.
injured that drinking, and then I re-injured and like broke it, like my surgery, like tore my. I guess it's not my ACL. I tore this dead guy's ACL. Now I'm drifting around between surgeries, and then Corona is kind of making that a thing.
Oh,
So,
fuck,
and I'm
dude.
kind of hoping to get out of Vancouver and maybe pick up a gas thing like you, because on my current thing, it's like you can make an extra 12K on what they give you. Right now, my rent's paid, which is
That's
cool.
good.
But like, so they give you an extra 12K allowance to make at work. Do you know what I mean? And that's to like make it so you could get off. So I'm hoping to move out first, like between this Corona thing, and then gas station it out because now I've kind of like ditched my girlfriend and stopped. Yeah, that was kind of an odd one too, because like, yeah, that was kind of before that I had no prior experience on the streets and stuff. So now it's like I underwent all of this, and now I'm finally able to like move out as a bachelor and stuff. But I have these weird. It's almost considered if you had this 5 year blackout period to your life
Yeah.
from references and work, and this is because that I spent all my money I saved out there and on this trip, and was just couch surfing, renting, like whatever. And so I wouldn't have my name on leases, and
Yeah.
I was like pretty sustained for some while until I came out here. And actually, the ACL disability thing was the quickest way to get into an apartment and off of, basically living around crazy people.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Right, right. So yeah, that's all kind of a new adaptation. Also, it's pretty fun in that it's like, okay, so, and this is my warning, is that I guess if you should smoke dope and not worry about your living circumstances, you could find yourself in some pretty like fun situations, and you won't hit like too bad because as a smart person like yourself, and you're a good dude, uh, would
Thank you.
not do this. I would not recommend the street experience, but I would say somebody like you could survive and not rob people and probably have like a make the best out of it circumstance like I did.
Yeah.
But it's also pretty fun to be intelligent enough to observe these types, and because otherwise you'd have to be crazy on crack and you'd not have anything to say about any of these things, not make observations. Being the kind of person I am, to be hanging around these crowds and shelters and to observe so many different things, it's almost kind of its own kind of weird treat. Almost like a hidden camera TV show where I'm just like, what the fuck am I seeing here?
It's
I only
almost like,
got myself here from smoking weed and just chilling. What the fuck?
you know what though? It sounds like something that, would be in like the early to mid 2000s, like online, you know what I mean? Like someone's experience, you know what I mean? I could see that being like an MTV like document where you're like recording your day, you know what I
Dude,
mean?
I almost wish I had a GoPro through all this because I keep telling myself, I'm like, the things that I encountered and some of the people and like whatever were almost stranger than fiction. Had I documented some of this, call it irrational spiral to some degree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it was more like, yeah, I'd met this person on a rebound from my previous relationship, and then I was convinced that I was gonna spend all my life savings on MDMA, and what I did for like 2.5 weeks, and then I was like, she was my drug connect slash translator enough to get better quality DOB and LSD and MDMA, So then like, yeah, but so I had this almost like a French Hunter S. Thompson vision of just I spent like fucking like $500 in drugs once, like, and they were just like a bag of different. I guess I bought some speed because I was gonna give it out, like some speed pills.
Oh
Speed
fuck.
pills are funny, by the way. They're pressed in the logos like OnStar, a soccer ball, like Oreo. So I just bought these because I'm like, I guess people like to do this stuff, like whatever. I'm not gonna do it, but like whatever. So I had like, yeah, some speed, some mushrooms, some fucking MDMA, some DOB, which was knockoff LSD, and I kept this on a little like military satchel, whatever. And my idea was at first to flip it. I flipped none of it. I consumed most of it. I gave it away to friends. We all tripped. And but yeah, I had this vision of maybe making some money, or I leaned on kind of, I'm just gonna get everyone high and have a good time. And so it
Yeah,
wasn't productive, but it yielded some weird stories, I
I
guess. Like, have
fucking
you ever
bet.
gotten so high they can't wash their hands?
That what lost their hands?
Okay, so like on that DOB stuff, it's weird. At best, when you take it, it's kind of weird. Somebody who is overdosed on it, and I mean overdose, not like uh, they were gonna die, but you get this heavy chest feeling and you can't breathe. That's where it's
Okay.
not like LSD is. You can't overdose on it. So when he took too much, he complained about seeing like auras of color around shit, and like he was like tripping balls, and like everything was like cartoon-esque, exaggerated, like proportions of things. So if you take a little bit of this stuff, it's fun. But if you're not an experienced psychedelic user, it may not be fun for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
there's this guy Kerwin who I met him once, and I did ketamine with him the first time, and that's kind of a whole other batch of whatever. But that's a dissociative and not a psychedelic. It just makes you
Yeah.
feel fun.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I fed this guy who's usually he sniffs this weird pharmaceutical OnStar ice, and he smokes weed. He chills. He just likes to play Call of Duty and rap and skateboard, and so he did a little speed, I guess. But
Yeah.
so I'm like, hey man, you shouldn't do that junk. You should play something cooler. So I fed him some like, I can't remember if it was like DOB or I think it was actually mushrooms, right? And then yeah, but like, and yeah, the mushrooms are like, yo, at some point it was like everything almost looked like it was covered in saran wrap. And then I would have this weird like claustrophobia from acoustics. Like if you heard your own voice echo back at you, it
Yeah.
meant that you were somewhere too confined and you had to like leave. And so like, and also another weird thing, and this is what the hand washing is, fluids felt kind of like viscous, like glue. Like you'd wash your hands,
Oh.
aha, the water's stuck to you. You're kind of more tactile sensations. So you're like, this is fun. Hey, I'm having fun washing my hands. Hey, Kerwin, who usually does speed and smokes weed, come wash your hands on this shit. And he fucking looks at me, dead ass. I ain't gonna do that, man. That's a trap. That's a fucking. So I mean, like getting somebody too high to wash their hands. So like that's some of the stories I got out of this, I guess. But like not anything else like actually worthwhile or of value or yeah.
You've lived quite a fucking life so far, man. Jesus. I didn't
I
know
just
any of this about you though.
yeah, well, I just kind of kept it under wraps because I was like, this is really unconventional, and I know people with their weird fake filter and their pride and their ego are only going to talk so much about their issues and their stuff, and I'm kind of trying to wear this on my sleeve, but in an appropriate fashion. And what I learned recently is that if you're if you share your experiences, as long as they're things that people can learn from, and you push on it, like, hey man, I've been eating good. I've been eating this stuff every day. Hey, you should eat good. Hey, you should, and you give them solid life advice. Like in this one example was, oh, you should mortgage a house, an apartment super, like a property super early on, so you don't have to pay it. Like get into a mortgage super early. That's
Yeah.
solid advice. You can't get mad at somebody for telling you that. That's like
No.
they're walking through a minefield and telling you how to not. So I'm just kind of doing that where I'm like, okay, I actually minefielded the fuck out of my life.
Yeah.
But in a fun way, I can say, like most people, they think like, oh, streets, that's not fun. I tried to make the best out of it and avoid some of these situations. And I was like friends with people who weren't so smart. And like this guy from Nunavut was funny, this Inuit guy, because he had no idea how the city was or how it worked or like any of it or what a subway was or anything. So yeah, I met him. He was like an alcoholic who was, getting egged on to stealing from the liquor store, and I converted him to 420.
Yeah.
And yeah, at some point, I would just leave for a couple days after we got him plugged into the shelter, and he was staying somewhere good, but he would hang out with this this gang of people. One of them was this guy called Dane, who was actually from Nova Scotia, Halifax, which is pretty funny. He was like fleeing charges at the time, so he was in Montreal, where the systems are different, where RCMP does not talk to SPVM.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So it's like Canadian Las Vegas. So he was there because of that. So, anyways, so my friend Tony ended up being the doorman at an actual drug house selling actual fucking drugs. And then being an actual drug mule. And I was like, yeah, Tony, actually, if people give you a few cigarettes for opening the door to a crack house, and they make you hold bundles of drugs on your person and then try to attack you, even though that they had the drugs on their person, they forgot, you kind of shouldn't do that because they're not your friend.
No, they're not looking out for
This
you.
this is what happens if you don't know what the city is and you're not smart enough to be on the streets. Is somebody
Yeah.
from but who's honest, they're genuine, they'll trust, they're loyal, and they don't know how the city works. So that's what you can get wrapped up in. So like I didn't, it's funny, I was smart enough to navigate all this, but I knew people who like really didn't.
Well, I can tell you right now, I know I fucking couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, just to navigate that whole situation. The fact that you're coming out and you still have a
It's
positive
actually
outlook says something
actually
about
pretty
you.
much like real life GTA, except you just do not do any criminal shit. You just don't get the 1 star, man. Don't fuck with the 2 stars. Don't see people are just like, my life is in the gutter. Time to do stupid shit. But really, you're just alleviated from responsibility. How I look at it as I'm like, okay, time to like cruise apartments every day, get rented out, or be on a housing list. While you're on that housing list, you're trying to stay dry. You're trying to like smoke. You're trying to have a good time. You're trying to avoid being attacked. Some
Yeah,
people don't do that. Some people think, hey, I'm on the street, my life is over. I'm gonna go crazy and smoke crack.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is, I guess, you could make it your plan Z is wear a tinfoil hat and a bathrobe and go play hopscotch and smoke freebase. But that's really just not what you want to do, right? And I guess it depends on what kind of person you are and the kind of self-respect and the kind of, like you're saying, discipline you have. Because
Yeah.
these might be alluring things to go play hopscotch and wear a tinfoil hat, smoke freebase. But to me, I'm just like, I'll smoke weed and that's good enough for me. Maybe I'll play some psychedelics. Maybe I like Molly because it makes you really emotional and you can form better bonds with people, even if that launches you into a 5-year relationship.
Speaking of relationships, actually, it's gonna be my fifth anniversary with my lady here.
Hey,
Um,
good. That's yeah.
Thanks. Uh, we've lived together for the last four. Things are going good. Um, we're just trying to up our careers, because we went to film school together, and there's not much work out here, especially during COVID. So we're just trying to create our own shit. We're actually writing a comic book right now, trying to see if we can get some funding for that. But it's a fun time.
That's something that's really hard to find, actually, somebody who's complimentary on that. They're the same page. Like they're on the same page as you are, hobby-wise, and the fact that you're both thinking about upgrading and maybe you even share a similar personality style. Because people are always kind of under the assumptions that opposites attract. And so you'll
Well,
settle for somebody who is different and doesn't, and it's like, that's lame.
in our case, our hobbies match, but our personalities are we're opposite. She's very introverted. I'm much more of an extrovert. She's
Yeah.
more detail oriented. I'm much more of a big picture kind of guy. But we complement each other where it's like she's strong in areas that I'm not. I'm strong in areas that she's not. Like for example, if one of our friends says they're going to be there at 8 and they don't show up till 9 and keep us waiting, she's going to call them out and tear their head off for it. I usually will let that go. But like if somebody, like for example, a homeless guy starts giving out to us in public, she's just gonna just try to walk away. I'm gonna end up yelling in the guy's face. You know what I mean? It's like that weird dichotomy where we just pick up on the other's weaknesses. I guess. I think that what makes us an effective team anyway. So did I hear wrong that you said you're having a kid?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay,
That's
okay.
some
Do you want to go
backup
into that,
TV.
or is that something you're?
Kind of. I'll go deep enough, and I'll say that if you stick two people in a survival relationship who are on MDMA, that they'll form a really close bond. But like, ooh, I kind of like once I was in the situation where she was going to have her own place and be in a better circumstance, And basically, the MDMA was taken so long ago, and we stopped smoking weed, which was our cooperative activity, that I really realized that there was not really so much chemistry there as much as I would like. It was really just kind of me um, taking care of this person. So now, haha, yeah, that kind of blew up my face, but didn't, because this is what silver linings is that at least I have this. She was cool and we survived really well together, and she has her own kind of different stuff she does. But again, it's a unicorn baby in that these are two people who met on a downward spiral, fell in love through MDMA, got out of this stupid the place that I was telling you about, the MDMA trap,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, I'm really under the belief that it's kind of an odd occurrence and something that shouldn't have occurred, but that it's really special backup DNA running around. So I can't really, but that's still like what that is. So I guess I'm kind of alleviated to some degree because of the circumstances around that. But also, if I'm going to give you any solid advice, is to
Yeah.
chase some brains. This
So some
unicorn thing
what?
is cool. This unicorn thing is cool. And why I'm saying that and what I told somebody else was that evolution doesn't come about from walking around and doing the same thing and yielding by conventional means and not trying anything different. You know, evolution is through mutation, which is different, like being different from the norm. You know, so this was a massive deviation from the
I
norm.
bet. I fucking
So,
bet.
and these are two kind of not overlapping personalities, but that can be like complementary. So I think maybe if that thing grows up with both of our traits, super cool, but would not occur in actual reality if you kind of feel me here.
I think I'm getting what you're saying. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Right. So I'm gonna pick a better pick that's maybe a little bit more representative of what I'm about and a little brainier. But that I'm
Yeah.
grateful. It's alleviating too in that, hey, I'm the last one of my for my own personal circumstance. I'm an only child
Yeah.
and the only hill man running away around. So I'm like, that's good. Now I have that just in case something goes seriously askew during my adventures, which I've navigated danger so well. That at least I have some DNA sitting around until I
You
can build an AI of myself.
you've got an heir to the throne.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Me and my girlfriend, uh, neither of us are. We both agree that neither of us would make parents. I think just because she doesn't like kids, and I don't think I'm in the position to take care of a child where I'm so career oriented. I think I just wouldn't be able to give it the full attention that I think that child deserves. But I'm happy that we both understand that about ourselves because I have some friends who they've had children and they weren't ready for it, and you can see it with the way their kids growing up. But this is to each their own, I guess, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, Calvin, it's been great having you on the podcast. We're coming up on 2 hours here, so I think we're gonna have to pick this up another time, though. Because
Yeah.
it would be great having you back on. You've got some interesting stories.
Yeah, you too. It'd be cool to mesh that up again.
Definitely. And if anytime I'm in Vancouver, we'll definitely hit the blunt.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man.
So,
Well, it's been great talking to you.
yeah, thanks again for having me, and yeah, it'll be cool to do that again sometime.
All right, man. All right. You take it easy out there and keep doing what you're doing. All
Yeah,
right.
I will give you an update soon. Yeah,
All right, for
take it
sure.
easy.
Shoot me a message whenever you can. Take it
Yeah,
easy, man.
we'll do. Peace.